Hello and welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. Back again. We did a PlayStation showcase kind of co-stream last week. Something new for me to do. It was quite an enjoyable show. Just the process of actually doing the co-stream. It started off with me not using the music, but then we ended up turning the audio on anyway because they only demonetize you the video. They don't actually strike your channel. And it will be for the Queen song in Beat Saber. That's what it will be for. It will be. But nothing so far on the channel. I've been looking. This week, we're going to talk about a little bit on the PlayStation showcase because there was quite a few good games there. And then probably Xbox and Bethesda showcase, what we'd like to see and so on, and then anything else that comes up gaming related. It's not really, we have a little bit of structure, or we try and have a little bit of structure on this show, but it's not completely all structured. But this week we have a guest, BMG, on from XPN Network, the man who's on about, I think he's about 3 podcasts. I think you're on now, BMG, ain't you?
Yeah, I do. I do the PSN Party podcast on Tuesdays, XBL Party podcast on Thursdays, and every other Sunday the Destiny Party podcast. But I've had a week off shows because not very well. I was on PSN, but Sentinel hosted because I was just not fully with it at all. Didn't even have an alcoholic drink for a week. Which
that means you're ill. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. I'm making up for it now, though.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate that. And VJ, how are you doing?
I'm all good, Lord Stubbs, and ready for your orders, Commander.
Hopefully Removable will be joining us soon. Yeah, probably just a little bit late. Yeah, it happens. It's not to worry. Welcome to Fimber in chat, Warwick Gaming Channel, VJ and BMJ. I might as well keep the tradition, eh? I'm used to do midweek gaming. But, yeah, we had... what's the weather like in California at the moment, VJ? Is it all right? Because we've got loads of sun.
This time last year, it was getting rather warm. The evenings from about 4 p.m. till about noon, the weather's quite pleasant. We haven't had much sun, but then it warms up a little bit for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But it's nowhere near as warm or as well, we have dry heat here. Well, as much as I can experience. And it's pleasant, let's put it that way. But when it gets hot, it'll be north of 100 degrees. But thankfully, we're not there just yet.
You mean American metric by 100 degrees, don't you?
Yeah, Fahrenheit. Yeah.
I was saying, not Celsius. Yeah.
No, I'd have melted. I'd look like BMG's avatar.
That's fair.
More red,
especially the eyes.
We've had quite a bit of sun recently. We have, but yeah, no. So we obviously watched BMG done his own PlayStation showcase co-stream over on the XPN Network with, I believe, Ash, didn't you, as well?
Yeah. Me and Ash co-streamed the show.
150 channels as well. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Everyone did it, but hey, whether we had no people or one person, it made no odds. It was fun to sit down with friends and watch it together.
Definitely. So obviously we're trying to look a little bit not so, because a lot of shows have liked to bash it completely, but a bit different over here. I mean, what did you think of it? Like, did you come out of it liking a lot of the games, or what did you think of it? Because I know what everyone was expecting. Everyone was expecting PlayStation to shove the entire kitchen sink at the event. What did you think of? But did you come out enjoying the show overall? Not as in, oh my God, I need to buy a PS5. Did you enjoy it overall?
Oh God, easily a 10 out of 10.
No.
All PlayStation had to do was show up. They didn't even have to show any games. Could have had Jim Ryan dancing there on stage and in the rain, and that would have been enough. Perfect show. Xbox is dead. There's no comeback. They might as well sell it off. No, I'm only joking.
He's saying this stuff because there was media outlets writing this stuff. They were.
Yes. It was all PlayStation had to do was show up, and it was
there's likes of Metro and that put before the show. All they've got to do is turn up, do the show, and it's over.
Yeah, it's a hard one because me and Ash, we both scored it. We scored it on two things, two separate scores. Game wise, I think we said 8 out of 10 because there was a lot of games, whether they were cross-platform, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, whatever. The games that were shown was good games, a lot of good games, and some really good stuff. But for a PlayStation showcase, we gave it a 5 and that was pretty much really because you had Spider, because the PlayStation stuff you got was all CGI, apart from Spider-Man, which was disappointing because when you've been quiet for over a year and a half and you've got all these studios that are working on things, have stuff in the works, it was disappointing in that sense. It was a disappointing PlayStation showcase because the showcases is where the come out swinging, showing us the future of PlayStation, and we didn't get that. What we got was a lot of indies, third parties, and CGI free. Was it free? Maybe 4 CGI trailers of PlayStation games coming in the future, but it didn't wow me in the sense of the PlayStation side. I was impressed with what was shown. I enjoyed a lot of the games that were shown, and there was some really good stuff out there. And whether you're PlayStation or Xbox, we're all going to be eating well this year. But from a PlayStation point of view, for a showcase, it was disappointing in that sense. And obviously, in the coming days, it was also brought out. It was sort of said that for whatever reason, PlayStation was holding back. There was a couple of insiders. I think the Snitch was one of them who seems to be bob on with most things. I think mostly said he knew of 2 free games that was ready to go to be shown, and for whatever reason they didn't. And then I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, sort of rumoured there is going to be another event this year. Whether that's reactionary to the kind of reaction to the showcase, or if it was planned, which I'm assuming it would already be planned because these sort of things are thought well in advance. But you would have thought their first show in just over a year and a bit that we would, over a year and a half, they would have even if they gave us teasers of what other studios were working on, it was a strange one, but it was a good show. It was a good show. Just I think everyone's expectations were quite high of just seeing PlayStation stuff and big third-party stuff, and we didn't overly get that because usually it's everything is called PlayStation exclusive, and apart from the PlayStation Studio stuff and Final Fantasy 16, everything else was cross-platform, if I remember rightly. But yeah, for a PlayStation showcase, it was a 5. For a show, generally a games showcase, and what was shown was an 8 for us. We sort of fell on.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That is, it's I enjoyed the showcase, but obviously because PlayStation have created the way they've done their shows previously, you do expect quite a few games. But the problem is maybe they've changed because PlayStation's changed because they used to obviously show games. They used to show games 5 to 10 years in advance sometimes, and sometimes you just get an updated trailer each year. they've kind of stopped that. They may have another show, but it was very different to what people are used to, and that's probably why they had such a reaction. It doesn't, like you say, I still fully believe they've got a stack of games to come out. I'm not saying this year, but I still believe they've got tons of projects in the works, regardless. I don't know what there's obviously a reason. If they have got another show, that's part of the plan. I don't know if it was to do with regulatories, just to make it look like they haven't really got any games. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's the reason, but there'd be a plan, because these showcases are planned in advance. There's always a plan, isn't there, VJ? There will be with these.
Yeah, unless you ask, yeah. I mean, for me, the event was totally fine, and what Sony did was perfectly fine, because what you had is, first of all, people perhaps were concerned. I mean, you know that the media is going to use words like failure, concern, what happened, and you know, this disgrace, all those kind of words of stupidity, right? That cause concern for people in general, that cause them to click. And I think that people's anticipation is basically human beings suffering the limitations of their own imagination, and hence they portray all their stupidity. So that's what's happened post. But if you actually look at the show, right, observe the show without all of your imagination and your entitlement getting in the way, what you saw was a lot of personal stories, right, in terms of indie content. And then you saw huge, bigger titles. Okay, some of it was CG selling you future promise, but Sony have predominantly over the last 30 years, arguably you would say that they've delivered on it, right? Sony and Nintendo have probably contributed more to the industry than perhaps other publishers or platform holders have done so. And it's not just Xbox. Sega, you could incorporate into that. You could incorporate SNK into that. You can put Bandai Namco into that, and so on and so forth, even NEC, right, in the past. And then what you've had your personal stories, and then you've got these larger, bigger AAA budget games, which I prefer to call a more of a collective passion, right? A collective being obviously a lot more people contributing to a specific goal. And from Sony's perspective, we could sit here all day, right, and try to sort of conceive why they did what they did. Watching it, I don't know if you agree, BMG, but there's a couple of things that stood out to me. The way that it was edited and stitched together. And you know, you have those little PlayStation idents in between, like major pauses. You know, the idents that sort of like take the symbols and they do a graphical presentation on. That's what an ident is, right? They didn't look as high quality as the ones from the previous show or some of the state of play shows that they do. And it seems to me they may have moved company, and the way that the whole thing was stitched together or edited together didn't quite feel quite as sharp or as on point as their previous shows. That was the only thing. I have no issues with the content and what they showed and what their strategy is, because remember, next year is the 30th anniversary, and they may be, you know, wanting to hold stuff like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and some of these other games for next year to showcase to their audience, to celebrate their anniversary properly. And I think I just want to go back to what I know you may have said it in jest, BMG, or you, Mr. Stubbs, that Sony just had to turn up. And I think they did turn up with Spider-Man, because I playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I followed all the previews really closely. It took Nintendo to, I think, almost about a month and a half or something like that to reach, I think it was like 10 or 12 million views on their trailer. It took Sony's Spider-Man 2 gameplay trailer 3 days to reach 15 million across the two channels, Marvel and the Sony channel. So, and I think in terms of what their goal is, in terms of the hardware units they want to shift, the only title that they really need to shift those hardware units this year and retain their subscribers is Spider-Man. And whether it captured you or not, that's down to debate. But that's how many eyeballs were on there. So I think that Sony will be looking at those metrics. The other thing is that I know people want to see all the games that are in development, but games, whether it's a very small indie game or whether it's a really high-end AAA game with 200-300 people or 1,000 people or whatever it is at any given point, right? Because there's not 1,000 people continuously on a project throughout, right? It scales up, goes through full production, then scales back down. So what you've got to look at there is that games are harder to make. And some of Sony's studios, if you take Insomniac, they take their technology and they incrementally increase the quality of the engine and then produce content consistently, right? And when you look at some of Sony's other studios, like say Naughty Dog or say Sucker Punch, I don't know if you can include them in that, depending on what they're working on. You know, they build a game, they do a post-mortem, tear down the game engine and rebuild it to really take advantage of the hardware, and that can take a considerable amount of time. And making a demo for the game or releasing something, people saying, "Oh, stuff was ready, wasn't ready." I think I'll go back to what BMG said. They could have just been CG trailers again, right? And I think they had the balance of gameplay and CG enough, because imagine if they showed another 2 or 3 CG trailers. So, and I say that because games don't come together towards the final 10 to 12 months of game production. They don't, unless they specifically made a vertical slice. And people think, oh, it's just a small number of people, 5, 10, 15 people that the studio needs to put aside to make a vertical slice. I can tell you, to make a demo or a gameplay demo like Spider-Man takes the whole studio, and it takes months. And those months are taken away from the actual production of the game itself, because the stuff you make for a demo, I can tell you 99.9% of the time it's binned, right? So if you take Sony and they had to do a showcase, had to get all their studios to align with that, right? 3 months, make a demo, put all the studio on it. Imagine that, first of all, it's not just necessarily the money. People say, oh, well, Sony can afford it. It's their major event in 2 years, but it's the time that they can't get back, you see? And demos primarily should fall out of the work in progress, whether that's now or in 6 months' time. If games can't even release without bugs and everything, how can you plan for a demo? So I think Sony, what they will clearly look at is, what is our objective this year? What's the one game that we're going to release? Make sure we don't cannibalize it, and let's see what the metrics are in case we have to react. But I think that the eyeballs on Spider-Man 2, I don't know how that translates into sales, but I've just given you the example. Nintendo's, with their install base of 136 million units of Nintendo Switch, they had about 10 or 12 million views in a month now on that final trailer, that major trailer or gameplay explanation. And they got 10 million views. And Sony have had that on Spider-Man 2 in 3 days, more than that, 50% more, with only, a third of the install base. And those are the metrics that I'd be looking at. Again, I don't know how that converts to sales, but you've got to look at it logically from a business perspective. And I can tell you that if Sony's thought that there was an issue, that they're not going to hit their business targets this year, then they would do something about it accordingly. But I do have to agree to just a small, I don't want to call it a criticism, because I don't really want to give this criticism unnecessarily. I just think that they did what they did, but if it was me, I would have done what they've done previously, done an indie and a third-party showcase 1 week, and then done a state of play for and a launch date and everything for Spider-Man. That's how I would have done it, rather than the showcase in terms of what people have come to think what it means to them, so that they suffer their own stupidity, right? And they're suffering from their own imagination, because Sony didn't promise anything. They just said, we're doing a Sony's play case and we're going to show third-party content. It's going to be an hour long. And people just started assuming, right? So they're suffering their own ignorance, basically. So that's my sort of brief take on it. There's probably loads more context that I could throw at it, but you've got to look at it from not just from what you want from a selfish perspective. You've got to look at it from Sony's business perspective, the probability that Spider-Man 2 may end up being, another 10 million unit seller in a matter of, following God of War, following Pokemon, following Zelda. And I've been in the industry I was in the industry, but in playing games, I've been playing games for 35 years. And I can tell you, I never even thought I'd see a day where, a game would launch and sell 10 million units in a matter of days, let alone a week, or let alone over a lifetime. It's quite phenomenal. And I can understand both sides, from the troubles and the pressure you're putting on development in terms of what you want them to do, what you want Naughty Dog to do, Sucker Punch to do, what you want, what Bend Studios. You probably know the studios better than me, BMG and Mr. Stubbs. But you get the catch my drift, right? In terms of what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And the kind of I'm just trying to apply some dialectical thinking to this, which is just logical thinking, right? To come to some sort of probability of truth. I'm not saying, what I'm saying is fact or truth, because all facts and all beliefs and all ideas and whatever truth is today, it kind of resides in the the shadow of ignorance, right, at all times, because things can change from a moment to moment. So overall, I think we saw a really good collection of content there, and I was quite looking forward to some of those games, right, including Spider-Man and so on and so forth. And let's not forget, right, we've got Final Fantasy 16. I know not everybody's going to play it, but it is coming, right, in a month's time, and that's got to be the focus for Sony, because Lord knows how much money they've invested in that, and they've got to recoup that as well. So you've got two, whether they're AAA or not, that's in the eye of the beholder. But in terms of budget and that's been contributed or placed in terms of investment in Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man 2, can't be underestimated. And you have to maximize the return on both of those and not cannibalize those projects by showing tons and tons and tons of other content, which may or may not be ready to show, if that makes sense.
What did you think of what we saw from Spider-Man?
I really enjoyed the first Spider-Man. I really enjoyed the first one, and I really enjoyed Miles Morales. And the second one it's how can I put this? I know what to expect from Spider-Man because I used to collect all the comics and so on and so forth. And to me, it shows just that the way that Insomniac are operating, right? Is it Tim Price? Is it? I've forgotten the guy's name, right? He's very, because he's been a third-party developer, he's very budget, time, and quality orientated in terms of, look, we've got to meet all three credentials, right? We're not going to delay games because we want the water to look like this or this, we need to have these visual effects and so on and so forth. They're just very competent at producing content out of their pipeline, which they incrementally improve over short periods of time. So overall, it's, to be honest with you, I will probably buy it, but that will probably should be the two words that tells you that I'm almost there, but I'm not quite there, as in a must-have, if that makes sense. Not like I was with Zelda, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think I would have to just see a little bit more, and then would be probably good to go. But it also depends. This is from a selfish point of view. I really like how Venom looked and all the powers and all the stuff you can do and so on and so forth. It's more of the same, just expanded out in terms of the world, in terms of how the world is streaming and the level of detail and so on and so forth. But I'm just intrigued to see a little bit more of the game before I can commit to saying this is a must buy for me, because again, there's just so much content out there. I'll give you an example, right? Like Indie Gamer made some really good recommendations to me in the past of the games I should play, and I've played them and they've been fantastic. So now he's saying to me, look, why don't you play The Last Case of Benedict Fox? I'm playing Zelda and I'm playing MechWarrior 5, and by the time I'm done with those two, I know that there's going to be probably Starfield, or Final Fantasy 16 or Silksong or something of those ilk that will sort of I'll kind of abstain from playing the Last Case of Benedict Fox, right? Even though I probably really, really enjoy it. I like what I've seen so far, but it's just that some content you end up missing out on because there's just so much afforded to us at this point in time.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed what they showed as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't think it was too much. I think it was just about right. The only thing
Did it capture you?
But the bit I wish they didn't show was the black suit, seeing Spider-Man with a symbiote. I wish they would have saved that as something that you would discover in game as more of a surprise, because it kind of raises more questions. Because if you listen sort of to the narrative of the trailer, it's like they're trying to get Doc Connors, stop him getting caught by Craven because they need him to save Harry. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Spoilers for Spider-Man Miles Morales. At the end of the games, you do see that the symbiote is attached to Harry. And it's kind of like, well, how the hell's it gone from him to Peter Parker? What's happened there? Then we're trying to save him. I wish they just kept that as an in-game surprise. I wish that wasn't revealed. I would have been happy with just seeing, a bit of a
Introduction
trailer,
to
a bit of
Craven,
gameplay,
and a little bit more about her, a bit more. What do you call that? A bit more of a prologue to the game rather than throwing us straight into it.
Yes.
And you know what I said when they were showing that, and I thought, you know what, this demo, this trailer here, do you know what it reminded me of? Do you remember when they did the Uncharted 4 reveal, when Drake's being dragged by a helicopter across the sea alongside the bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought he is the same guy editing this trailer, taking footage and put this trailer on the back of Uncharted 4, because it really did kind of feel similar to me.
Yeah. It just felt slightly spoilery. It was great to see. I think obviously they were showing some off new.
I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you, because it was Zelda. I thought it was I know that they had to sell the game because people were confused, but I've seen a couple of spoilery things, but I'm glad that I haven't suffered as much as others, because the game actually teaches you that you don't have to discover it for yourself. So I've made my peace with it. But people putting up videos saying, "Oh, these are non-spoilery and no story spoilers, no this that," and they are spoiling the game. So after watching one or two, just to recap, because I did play Breath of the Wild, and I just wanted to know what certain recipes and so on and so forth, just to re-rack my brain. And you're right, I ended up avoiding that. And you're right, if the black suit wasn't shown, I wouldn't have been mad. I would have been even more intrigued.
Yeah. It was. I sort of understood why they showed it, because they were showing off something new. Because if they just showed Spider-Man and obviously the dynamic with Miles switching back and forth, it'd be like, oh, it's just more Spider-Man, and I can understand the reason why they probably did it. But to me, it was also quite a big spoiler that we know probably early in this story we're going to get the symbiote and get the black suit, and it's like, I'd rather have discovered that in game and gone like, oh my god, holy hell, that's amazing, and enjoy it in that sense, instead of it now going into the game knowing I'm going to get it probably an early-ish point, and then I'm going to have to play the sequence of the scene.
You're a connoisseur gamer, right? And these kind of things perhaps do pain you and pain myself. But when I read some of the comments under the trailers, all anybody was talking about was how cool was a symbiote. Sorry, I forgot the pronunciation. Symbiotic suit was, and how they can't wait to play with it, and how brilliant the animations look. And I think that the majority of people, perhaps me and you, I'm just saying that perhaps we might consider that me and you might be in the minority, and that they've taken a call, which is easy for us to criticize after the fact. That when you look at the positive comments about people actually seeing it and seeing how the gameplay potentially has evolved, there's a lot going on there. Let's be honest, and it is quite fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
What they're managing to achieve. I mean, I just love the fact that the webs now that are cast leave shadows, which is phenomenal for me. I love shadows in video games, and especially shadow and all that sort of lighting and stuff. So. But I think, again, they'll look at the metrics and look at the positive feedback and see what people are gravitating towards and think it's a win, even though perhaps for me and you, we perhaps, even though we wanted a showcase, perhaps we don't really want one.
Yes. Yeah. It was good. It was great. I was worried towards the end because, I know everyone had said it online, but I did think, with what Tony Todd said, the ramp up in August, game release in September, which falls under the fall sort of timeline, because obviously we only got fall. I did think we were going to get a release date, but or something narrowed down more than just fall. But it was good what they showed. It kind of gave a glimpse of what you can do, new powers and things to experience. But again, it was just that little bit spoilery for me. And knowing I'm going to have to play that whole Zack sequence anyway, but I'm still interested. It's still a day one for me. I will be picking it up. I've been looking since I did finish Spider-Man. I enjoyed Miles Morales. It was slightly a bit different, a bit more smaller and condensed, but was fun to play as Miles and different powers, different styles and things like that. And I really did enjoy it. So I'm definitely ready for Spider-Man 2. And
Are you?
I think
Are you, I know Spider-Man's. I'm not sure when it's out, but are you also a Final Fantasy 16? Are you looking forward to that at all?
I actually am. The actual last Final Fantasy I played was Final Fantasy X, and that is even now at this moment, Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy.
I replayed that last year.
Yeah, I do. It's just such a good game. I enjoyed the story, the gameplay. It's really good, and what I've seen of Final Fantasy 16, I quite like that medieval, fantasy type. And from I think we've seen too much of it so far. Because we got obviously the big whole Final Fantasy thing last month, and then obviously we've seen it again here again. So I think it's like the third time the game's now been shown off. I hope they don't show any more off, because it's kind of like they've shown a lot.
Yeah,
the main character's name, Clive. It's just the name Clive. It's just like, of all the medieval sort of takes you could have got.
Do you know what I think of? I don't know if you're old enough to remember. Do you remember Clive Anderson at 10 p.m. on ITV?
Oh, when was that? 90s?
Yeah, late 80s, 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, vaguely, very vaguely.
No
I remember having 4 channels. You just get switched off to 8 p.m. You just got the picture of the the clown and that girl smiling at
you. You did.
It was like I can't remember. Was it Australian Clive? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, Clive. I think it was Clive Anderson. Anyway, he had a name like Clive, and he was like a comedian, making fun of the weekly TV adverts and stuff like that. And I think it was Clive Anderson. I can't remember now, but I've got the reason why I ask you is because I've got a few friends. Well, my nephew predominantly and his friends. They play Final Fantasy 14. Is it online? And obviously,
oh yeah.
And they play it religiously. He plays World of Warcraft, League of Legends, and lots of indie games. He's a PC gamer predominantly. Doesn't play on consoles, other than Animal Crossing, which he tried out. So basically, I said to him, how do people feel about everybody that's playing Final Fantasy 14 on PC, knowing that the core creative team, and that's all in music, script, game design, level design, weapon, all the weapon-based system, all that kind of have contributed and created this vision, which is Final Fantasy 16, which is unique to them, which is fine, no problems, no issues whatsoever. How do you feel about that? Are you intrigued to watch the trailers or even pick up a PS5 to play that specific game? And he hadn't thought of it like that. And he says it's definitely interest there, but I think people are waiting to see if it will come to PC or not. Yeah, but there's definitely a huge amount of interest that they've gone across to make that specific game. And I was just curious as to you yourself, because you play on PlayStation, and whether Final Fantasy 16, but it just seems again that you are a gaming connoisseur. Right? If you've gone back and played 10, I went back and played 10 and 12 last year after Elden Ring, because Elden Ring knocked the wind out of me. It took me like two and a half months to get through that game, and I had to go and play Final Fantasy and 16. I wasn't a big Game of Thrones fan, and people are comparing it to Game of Thrones, and I'm just kind of a little hesitant. But in terms of how it looks, and in terms of the experience that team wants to deliver, it looks to be quite phenomenal, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm from a business perspective, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it performs as well for Sony, especially in Japan.
See, I wouldn't have said Game of Thrones. I would have said something closer to like The Witcher, personally.
I don't know. It's just that I watched like Easy Allies and a couple of others, and they all mention Game of Thrones. The other one you just mentioned, that's also been mentioned. What was it you just said, BMG?
The Witcher.
The Witcher. Yeah, that's kind of been mentioned. Yeah, as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like I'm a Game of Thrones fan. Watched all the TV shows. I've read all the books. And the tone of that to what Final Fantasy 16 is, I would put it more on par with The Witcher, but The Witcher on steroids is probably the way I would look at it. And it definitely interests me. It's I wasn't keen on 15. I briefly played it, and I driving around in the car with your broskies and that, and it just didn't grab me, and I just fell off it because
I really like the music in
Final
that
Fantasy.
game. I really like the music in that game, BMG, Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, it's one of them. I don't know what it was. I just didn't like the whole being around in the car and going around. For whatever reason, it just it didn't feel Final Fantasy. And I know they're all different. I know there's a couple that are tied together and things like that. But it just nah, I think I'll give this a miss. And then Final Fantasy 16 was announced. We got that brief trailer, all medieval and that. And I thought, this is where my point where I jumped back on. And we I think it was me and Ash again. We streamed the Final Fantasy event where it was more of a reveal and more stuff that they showed off, and it was doing things that I kind of like the idea of. It's when you like your summons and stuff, you actually getting to control them and things like that, and it then takes the stage to a bigger stage into the sky or across the landscapes, but obviously giant huge forms and things like that. And I thought that looks more fun than any other Final Fantasy I played. If it plays as well as it looks and as well as it's coming across, then I'm going to pick it up. Whether it's day one or not, I'm not 100% sure because there's a few things I want to play this year, but it's definitely on the list to play. I didn't need what they showed at the PlayStation event because, to be honest, I was convinced by the Final Fantasy event when they showed the game off and all the different things, and the accessibility they're doing. I like the fact that you can have stuff equipped, turn things on to make the game more accessible to play. You could, because Final Fantasy, sometimes the games can just be want to smash your controller type situations. The older ones, not so much newer ones.
I've never had
stressful scenarios. I think I had a couple in 10, but I got past it quite quick. It was mainly what I was doing, not doing what it hinted me to do, if that makes sense. I was
10 has a few of those moments in there, especially when you want to get all the ultimate weapons and the 200 lightning dodges. I mean, that done my head in. So
yeah. But the fact now you can, say you're no good at you can't do your combat and you can't parry, because there's people out there that kind of focus one way or the other and can't balance or juggle them. There's an option you can turn on where you wear this ring and it'll automatically parry for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And that obviously can lead into accessibility as well. People that have limited motion function or things like that would help them access this game and be able to play it and enjoy it.
I'm all for that. I'm all for that. And and again, I just want to reiterate again, BMG, it's not easy making an indie game. I mean, you think about it, have you ever tried origami? Have you ever taken a pencil and tried to draw a perfect circle? I'm just saying these things, right? Because making a video game is really, really, really difficult, really complex. It doesn't matter how talented, how committed, how well the project's been conceived, until 3 or 4 years down the line, right? It's that the funding behind it is betting on the fact that you have the experience to know how the project will, to a degree, come together, and then that you'll need 6 to 12 months to refine, replace, edit the game in certain places to make sure it flows well. The story needs tweaking, any mocap, any fundamental issues with the gameplay, they can all be refined, but it can only be refined to a degree because you've had your ball of clay, you've made your sculpture, and like a sculpture, the games are made in the same way. You cut content away, you take clay away, you add clay here and there, depending on the suppleness, depending on what part of the anatomy or the body that you're making. So it's adding stuff, taking stuff away, and finessing it, and even then, until it's in the hands of the consumers and how they feel about it, you have no idea. I mean, I bet you any money that the guys that were making the last case of Benedict Fox thought that the game and the controls were perfect and probably revolutionary, because they get so used to it, playing with those systems day in, day out. It's become second nature, and it's sometimes easy to forget that you're making it for someone else, if that makes sense. That's where good producers coming in, helping to police and manage that. But then it depends on how good of a producer, what is your personality like to speak to some of these, like, if you're producing a game for Shigeru Miyamoto, right, have you got the balls to say to Miyamoto, listen, you need to rethink this, right, at the behest of perhaps losing your, the fear of losing your job, right? And that's how it works in Western studios. It doesn't work like that in Japanese studios. So what I'm saying is that I always try to give games that I'm looking forward to the benefit of the doubt. So when you ask me about Spider-Man, what did you think of it? It's like, I'm almost there. I played the first two. I don't know if I need more of the same from the first two, because I've already played those games, and there might be other games like Starfield, for example, that I haven't, because I haven't played the Fallout games, you see, and I haven't experienced, and I didn't play the Skyrim games. So this would be my first Bethesda game if it's all running fine, because it's just that I haven't experienced the type of game that was it Todd? I've forgotten his surname. Todd Howard makes. If it makes sense. I've played Insomniac games. I love the Ratchet and Clank games. I love the two first Spider-Man games again. But it's like those are still fresh in my mind, those experiences, and it's not that I'm not looking forward to Spider-Man 2. I think there's a massive audience for it, BMG. It's just that I've experienced it already, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about Final Fantasy, because they bring in a new team and they know what Final Fantasy is about. It's about cutting edge visuals, music, story, building new gameplay mechanics and systems, and a whole new vision for the words Final Fantasy, not necessarily following a formula. It's not formulaic, right? And that's why I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy. Not because I'm a Final Fantasy fan, I've played all of them, because it's Final Fantasy I have to. But no, it's a different vision. But we know the production values that are assigned to that and the budgets that are assigned to that. I know more closely the sort of budgets that are assigned to that just from being in certain places at a certain time. What, the right time or the wrong time, I don't know now. But you get what I mean. It's going to be a different experience. But I will say, just to shout out to Square Enix, that I really enjoyed the first Octopath Traveler, and I'm just waiting for my appetite to increase before I pick up part 2. Because the first one I played at Game Pass, and that's still fresh in my mind. So once I get a real urge for it, then I'm going to pick up part 2. So anyway, I thought I'd just mention that, because it's not always about the title. It's always now. So if Spider-Man was being the sequel, I know sequels don't always fare really, really well. But if we were told that it's got a different director, and it's going to have different music and musician attack or whatever, right? But because obviously it's exactly the same people that made the first one, I kind of like, okay, it'd be really interesting as a post-mortem to see, were they able to evolve as human beings in terms of their imaginations and their ideas and implement it into a video game that they know that they have to release. And that will show me that will be testament to how good Insomniac are, and the snippet at the price that Sony managed to pick them up at, because imagine what they'd be worth now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Jesus.
The problem is, though, it's like Insomniac are incredibly talented, but as such, as an actual studio, they don't actually have
I would say talent.
It's a talent.
Coupled
the IP,
coupled with sensible production approach.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a steal what they bought them for. 265 million or something. It'd be in the billions range.
But that's what BMG spends on lunch in a week.
Oh yeah, and Foster's.
But no, overall, it sounds like you both enjoyed the PlayStation showcase. There was a lot of indie games I enjoyed. The Sword of the... Was it the Sword of the Sea?
Yeah.
I got the name wrong.
Yep.
There was loads of the indie games I enjoyed. But this game here, I don't get it. Do any of you lot get it? This marathon game, I don't get it. My Bungie.
Marathons actually, people are
People keep
it's like,
saying
oh,
it's
is
been
it a brand new IP?
People
It's
keep
not a
saying it's
new
been
IP.
stolen from a different game.
Yeah, no, Bungie actually made Marathon. It's not technically a new game. Bungie made Marathon before, way before Halo. It came out early 90s for the Apple, the Macintosh, I think it was. I think they made 3 of them. They made
single player game apparently. It was.
Yeah, basically the original Marathon was you were on the ship, the Marathon, and there was like an alien invasion type thing, and you was fighting to stop it. First person shooter. I think they did 2 or 3 games of Marathon, and then obviously the IP it went away, and they ended up on with Xbox and things like that. But yeah, this is just a revived IP. It's not. Obviously, they're doing a bit of a different take on it. Obviously, way more modernized, bit more open world, and as we can see in the trailer. But it's actually.
Bungie, I was going to say, imagine if Take-Two had refused. Well, I don't think they could have refused, but imagine if they'd refused to sold Bungie to Microsoft in the first place. Where would they be now?
Yeah, crazy.
Take-Two used to own about 20 or 30% of Bungie before Microsoft came along.
I thought you meant you own them outright. Sorry, okay. You owned stock, okay.
Yeah, they owned about 20 or 30% of Bungie, and then Microsoft came along and bought, I don't know, the outstanding shares, and then pushed Take-Two to take the balance so they could have it as a launch title.
And eventually got away from Bungie left Microsoft. In the deal that I don't know what happened, but I know that they gave the IP to Microsoft, and they gave them some stock. Now, I don't know if Microsoft still owns stock now, seeing as PlayStation owned them. I don't know.
No, they won't now, will they? Because they're wholly owned by Sony, aren't they?
Yeah.
But but it's actually it's an original. It's not an original brand new IP.
It doesn't really give away a lot, this trailer, does it?
No, it's doesn't really explain much of the game. Because I've seen many people.
It looks like a multiplayer shooter to me, where you shoot the person and rip the thing off it, but it doesn't really look like much more.
No. But I think a lot of people don't really know what Bungie have done apart from starting at Halo. But yeah, they did games before that, and Marathon was one of their original IPs that they did, and it's cool to see it back. I would have rather seen something different, something completely new. Go maybe do something a bit out of the comfort zone, rather than another FPS, because we've got that with Destiny. Probably their biggest IP they've done that makes them a hell of a lot of money. But Destiny's as far as we know, is coming to an end next year with the final shape.
Give me a second, I will put that up. So because some people have heard some podcasts, I think they're getting confused, because I think a lot of people think that Cade never died.
He died. He did die. Yeah. It's hard because
he's a favourite though. Yeah, can I ask you a question as well? Do you know the actor Lance? What was his name? Lance
Riddick.
He died.
Yeah.
So have they got to do something in the game with his character? Because it won't be nice.
As far as we know, up to
it
press,
won't be in this, will it? Because it's too.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't actually know yet. All we know is he has recorded. As far as we're aware, he's recorded all lines that for all the seasons up until the final shape. Okay. Whether he has or hasn't done final shape, we don't know. Nathan Fillion, he's back as the voice as Cade. Amazing actor. Absolutely love him as an actor. But yeah, he's back as Cade. From what we see, I would assume we're actually inside the Traveller, because Cade did die. He actually did die. He's ghost, because the only thing that brings Guardians back is the ghost. his ghost was destroyed. He was actually He actually died, but nobody knows what happens inside the Traveller. From inside the Traveller, he could, for all we know, can resurrect anyone. We don't know. Until we find out more in August, it's all assumptions. But from the view that you see in this trailer, I would say
the Traveller saved him.
Traveller. The Traveller chooses. The ghosts come from the Traveller. Okay. The Traveller sends the ghosts out to find the people that are worthy to be guardians to help defend the universe. But from that trailer and that bit you can just see then, that would say to me you're inside the Traveller, because that big purple triangle is on the Traveller with the witness goes into, and then that's all we see is that big purple triangle on the Traveller. So I would say they found a way inside and they're inside, and my assumption is the Traveller's brought back Cade, but he may only be able to exist inside the Traveller. It's only assumptions, don't fully know. But from outside of the Traveller in the universe, the Traveller sends out ghosts to bring back guardians, but you only get one ghost. Once that ghost has been destroyed, you can't be brought back, which Cade did die. And there's, from what he says in this, he doesn't even know how he's back. But they are inside. From there, I would say they're inside the Traveller. So maybe it's something that happens inside. I don't know. It's cool to see back, even if it's maybe just for a short period, because the final shape.
Yeah, but that last one, where they're looking at the Traveller, they're not in the Traveller.
No. Where they're looking at.
Yeah.
If you look at going to play Destiny or anything like that, that big purple triangle is actually on the Traveller.
Oh,
from that view, there is if you're already inside the Traveller looking at the exit. That's how I would look at it. That's how I
see.
That's how I see it. But this is the end of the light dark saga. This is what Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 has built up to, the final shape. And this is the end of it, but we don't know where it goes from there, because there was surveys that went out asking, would you like to see another Destiny or different stories told in the Destiny universe? Would you want to see a new game? Many things that, stuff that's been incorporated very recently in the last couple of weeks. And
BMG, can I just ask you I only want a quick answer, because I'm just mindful of some of the other stuff Stubbs wants to talk about. But a quick question on Destiny. I did play it and I really enjoyed it, but life at the time was somewhere else, so I didn't get quite a chance to really get into it. And since then, I've gone off to play other games. But in terms of how successful the game has been, is it on the whole a very popular game? So if I can give a comparison in terms of, is it World of Warcraft people complain about all the time, or whatever, or Diablo 3 or whatever? You see a lot of people complaining on outrages, but overall commercially it's a cash cow, right? So does Bungie and Destiny 2 suffer from the same thing, where you'll have the people that are outspoken that will criticize it, but overall, regardless of what me and you might say, on the whole the numbers don't lie, that the engagement and the money, that the revenue, that the game or the ecosystem produces is it quite successful? I just wanted to get a gauge from you.
Yeah, it's definitely successful. They've kind of got the art down into doing a live service game. You've got a season every 3 months, which brings a whole new story content, new armors, weapons, missions,
and that's for retention purposes, correct?
Yeah, and it works. It's, in that sense, complaint wise, or I don't really see many. Generally, when there's issues with servers and things like that, when they've implemented something, you see a lot of people talk up then. But in general, I personally, only from what I see, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not seeing everything, I don't really see complaints of gameplay or game mechanics or content. You never really see any complaint about content wise, because there's always, the way they've made it now, and the way the game is now compared to when it launched. Jesus, the game I didn't think the game would survive the way it launched because there was nothing. But now there's never nothing to do. They've implemented so many different things, but made it more streamlined and a bit simplified. There's always something to do and to work towards. But the best thing I always think about with Destiny, say you get an accolade and you get like a digital badge of you've completed all the accolades in this. So here's your digital badge that you can display above your name and people can see it in game. When you acquire one of them in game, Bungie will send you a link and say, look, you've acquired this, you've achieved this, well done. Does cost money, but you can actually physically buy. You get a special link sent to you, so you can buy that accolade that you've achieved. So you can have a physical item.
Yeah, no, I've heard you talk about this. Quite a few times.
Yeah, but it's good overall. There's always something to grab you and keep you going, and the seasonal content they make weekly, so you can only do so much of the story each week. But there's that much of other stuff to do in between. The time you've done that, then you're back to do the next bit of the story. But yeah, I would just say overall it's all positive. I know they've had a big input. The whole stuff that's come out with Naughty Dog, with factions, which is quite a big. I'm disappointed that.
But why is it disappointing? What's the narrative?
The fact? Well,
come out.
Well, they have. Naughty Dog released a statement.
But what's the narrative? What's the issue?
They brought Bungie in to have a look at the longevity of factions, and Bungie have gone in.
Didn't say that though, did they? The statement didn't mention Bungie at all.
Yeah, but I kind of sort of trust Jason Schreier. You kind of when he's getting that inside sort of stuff. So basically, Naughty Dog have come out and said, "Look, we're having to reevaluate.
Yeah,
they're making some changes, and they're working on a single player game." Which was a bit right. Okay, fair enough. And then Jason Schreier's come out with the story saying they brought Bungie in to check, pretty much to see, is this game going to work long term? And Bungie have turned around and said, no, this game will not work long term. So now they've sort of gone back. I wouldn't say back to the drawing board, so to speak, because we don't know how far it is.
First of all, if you put an S in front of words, right, it gives you swords, right? And I say that because words can be cutting. You must choose your words carefully, and hence the saying, the pen is mightier than the sword. Because the way I see it is this, right? And you have got two types of people out there, BMG. You've got joyful people like yourself, watch Only Fools and Horses, and you've got miserable people, out there, and who predominantly watch EastEnders, right? And the way I see it is this, is that first of all, that Naughty Dog work in a very specific way. But if you want to see a sign from a studio, because I can tell you that studios can be difficult, right? Because they're all full of egos. No matter how much they try to work together, there's always egos there. It should show you that if Naughty Dog have allowed or have requested, because we don't know the facts, right? That should show you that studio has humility, right? That they want the game to work first and foremost, right? Because I remember the negativity surrounding The Last of Us 2. Oh, the game's, got issues, it's got challenges, it's not working, blah, blah, blah. The game came out, it was fantastic. Whether you like the story or not, that's your own personal decision to make, and that's fair enough, right? But in terms of a game, if you play through it, the pacing, the level design, the combat, everything is fantastic, I don't think anyone's got any issues with that. You may do, but I didn't. So what I would say that if you've got a project like Factions, which is a huge amount of anticipation and you want it to work, you should bring in another studio. And I'll tell you another game that would have benefited from doing the same thing is probably Redfall. Right? So it should show you that the studio is full of humility, right? And Sony are sensible enough to say, don't just stick it out there. if there is something that needs tweaking, if there is something that needs balancing, if there is something that needs editing, if there, like you said, BMG, right? The good thing that that Bungie have done is ensured that every 3 months that there is content to engage. I don't know what Factions is. I'm just surmising here, right, from what you're saying, right? And perhaps it was nothing to do with it. Perhaps it was the fact that they had to delay the game because they didn't have content that they had planned out sufficiently enough for the game to continue to work, and they needed to make sure that that's established before launching the game, so there isn't a massive drop-off period between launch and whatever else they've got planned going forward. So there could be 100 things, but the point is that based on what Naughty Dog have delivered over the last 20 years or so, they haven't done too badly in terms of a track record. And the problem I have with journalists and critiques and all that, they are all parasites at the end of the day, right? And they will do whatever they have to do in order to get traction, right? That's their jobs at the end of the day, right? But for me, it's a case of people always remember the last thing somebody did for you or said to you, and then the history that's gone before is out of the window, and that is a fundamental flaw in the makeup of our species, if you get what I'm saying, right? You do 9 things really great for some, you do 1 thing wrong, and then they just stick that to you constantly, right? So I think that actually it shows a heightened sense of humility and progress for a studio to invite another studio and say, listen, look, we've produced this, what do we need to do to make it better? Right? Rather than say, oh, there's issues, there's problems, there's challenges, when you fundamentally, you don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense because
is that fair or?
Yeah, no, that's very fair. I like the fact that they've brought Bungie into us to
absolutely
try and get, because Bungie are good. Look how long they've been going with Destiny and how successful Destiny is and how they do the content, the stuff they produce and how they pace it out. Yeah, I agree. It makes sense to bring him in, and I'd rather. Whether Factions is going to...
Yeah, well, sorry, not just the maturity of a studio to be able to think like that and bring them in, right? And it may not have been the studio, it may have been Herman Hulst saying, listen, you know what, because I know he's good friends with Neil Druckmann, right? Because even before that, they've hung out quite a lot. And I remember there was a YouTube interview between the two of them for about 20 minutes just discussing games, right? And you can see the connection between the two, the camaraderie, as if they've worked together for years, right? Even though they've both worked on the other side of the world prior to Herman Hulst holding the position that he does now. So there is a mutual respect there, because what Neil Druckmann does know is that Herman Hulst built a studio from nothing, right? In even having to approach studio and basically wetting himself before doing a presentation to Sony, not knowing if the next project would be greenlit or not. That's coming from that's real experience, right? Rather than being plunked in a job because of the name that you've held or a position that you've held, right? Unlike some certain people that are at the Xbox management, right? So yeah, I think it's a sign of progress and a sign of maturity that you bring in a studio to assess what you've done because you want it to be good, because fundamentally you know that you are making a product for someone else to enjoy, which has to be the way.
Yeah, exactly. And they want the game to be the best it can and have many years of content going on. And Bungie's probably, you use every resource you've got to ensure that. You don't want to release something half-assed. Destiny made that mistake with the launch of Destiny 2 and they got destroyed for it. Right? Yeah, and they learned from it and they've constantly just improved on that ever since. So yeah, it makes sense. You own the studio, get them to look at it just to get an idea of what, help or whatever, or just things what they could do, whatever. I don't understand why the Naughty Dog have scaled the team back. Maybe the only reason why
BMG, I don't know how long Factions has been in production or so on and so forth. So the way that I was explaining this to Stubbs the other day is that towards the back end of a project, when you're refining, tweaking, polishing, the only department that scales up is QA, internal QA. Right, and testing, etc. So at the back end of a project, you don't need concept artists, right? You don't really need an orchestra, composing it. You don't really need motion capture, right? So basically, if you take take the production process. So when you're ramping up to full production, you don't need the full team. You just need a core team of 15, 20, 30 people. Then you bring in the full production, you're 200, 300, 400, whatever it is. And then the project scales down. It's just a normal course of development. And then what happens is that the full production team moves onto the next project. Hence why lots of studios have two teams. It's not that they have two full-blown teams, is that they have two creative departments which are in pre-production, and they have two post-production teams, or one post-production team, and then they have a full-on production team, if that makes sense. So scaling up and down, they must apply context to it, because otherwise they're just misinforming uneducated people, which just stirs the pot to produce a load of nonsense. Or holes in people's thinking, right?
Factions came out with Last of Us Part 1, not the worst, remake, right? The original. And so it's based on the original Factions, and they sort of started from there, and then the project's kind of got bigger in scale and what they want to do, and then it's kind of gone from there. I'll just see if I can find the statement.
Because if all the content, I mean, I'm sure it's content complete, right? In terms of the assets for the game, why would they need a full production team to balance the game out, or test the game, or make any adjustments or balancing, right? It doesn't require a full production team. So actually, I would see it as a positive if production's being scaled back, because that means that the product is probably feature and content complete and just needs that an extra six months or 8 months of polish, as did do you remember that Last of Us 2 went through the same thing, right? Because they delayed it, right? And people said, oh no, what's happened? They've scaled back. That they just keep regurgitating the same what journalists do, they regurgitate the same stuff, right? But they just apply it to a different subject matter, if that makes sense, right? Or a different property, right? So I don't have any issues or concerns, especially if they've got contributing to it.
Well, when all the rumors were coming out, all the insiders or the journalists, whoever you see, whoever you think, were saying the Factions was in trouble. Bungie have said this game's no good or whatever. Things gonna have to change. So Naughty Dog actually released a statement, and they said, "We know many of you have been looking forward to hearing more about our Last of Us multiplayer game. We're incredibly proud of the job our studio has done thus far, but as development has continued, we've realised what is best for the game is to give it more time. Our team will continue to work on the project, as well as our other games in development, including a brand new single-player experience. We look forward to sharing more with you soon." So they released that after everything was coming out, saying Factions was in trouble. They released that statement. Well, it needs more time. If it needs time, give time. There's no rush to these things. At the end of the day, as we all know, there's literally thousands of games out there to play. And we'd rather have the game come out the best it can be than they just release it because fans demand it,
the BMG, there's no guarantees in life, right? And the thing is, right, Sony as well, right? If they feel that, you see what Sony, what in business, right? And Sony's no different, right? Other than Microsoft, because they can afford to, right? There's no skin off their nose. Money and resources is an issue for them, but Sony in a position where they need to know when to get in, and they need to know when to get out, and they need to know when to cancel projects, because it's not Sony. That's just good business. That's the difference between good business people and bad business people.
And it makes sense.
When to get in, when to get out, when to cut your losses, and when to back it further, right? And those are business-based decisions, which they make all day long. I mean, you could say, well, Nintendo has spent, I think this financial year spent $2 billion in research and development, and they haven't had anything to show for it. That could be a new story, right? Where's that $2 billion been spent? What was it spent on? And blah, 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 right? But it's just that it's unfortunately Sony and what Microsoft do and what Sony do and other gaming companies do, it's just hot topic, and whichever way you can construe the messaging or the information, or the way you want to infer say this press release or whatever it was announcement, is just down to the two types of people that I mentioned: the people that watch EastEnders and the others that watch Only Fools and Horses.
I just funny. I was watching Only Fools. I've had a day off today, which is my first day since Easter Sunday. my first day off.
From work or from playing Destiny?
From work. From
Oh,
work. I've got to get.
Sorry, yeah. Do you want to confirm
get that? Oh yes, got to get my Destiny in there. What episode was it? It's the one where they go. Dell, Rodney, and Grandad, they go fishing, and there's the escaped patient.
Friday the 14th.
I watched that as well.
Friday the 14th.
I watched that one. Yeah, yes, I did. And then
they
let him in.
Yeah, but I know, but it's the ending of it where he wants to play pool, and it's like, we'll play on this table here, and it's
why don't you take the wooden hill to Bedfordshire?
Oh, let's play for £10 a frame. I don't like winning. I hate winning.
You got the chalk.
Oh, classic episode. Classic. Oh, I love it. I love Only Fools and Horses. Oh, we need an Only Fools and Horses podcast where we just watch the episodes.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Oh, I'm down for that. Stubbs, work on that.
Right, Mr. Stubbs. I think you want to talk a bit about Xbox.
You've got a few podcasts. You could add Only Fools and Horses podcast to it.
You should.
Well, I tell you, I would, but I don't know. I don't know. I could do it. I just don't think BBC would allow me to stream all the episodes of Only Fools and Horses.
No, that's probably right. Welcome, Luke Steele. Safu's in the house. Sentinel. Who else? Just catching up with a few of them. Paul AFC. Yeah, I'm caught up now.
Just see what I did see Safu's comment before when we were talking Spider-Man. Feels like it gives the impression it's more of a DLC than a new game. With Spider-Man 2, the thing is the structure of the game's already there, but they've expanded on it. You could see you kind of got a teaser from looking at Craven's screen, as well as playing in game. They've kind of opened a hell of a lot more areas. The basis is still going to be Spider-Man swinging through the city.
Problem is, BMG, people seem to nowadays they don't look at documentaries. The God of War documentary is great to look at, and people seem to think that every single game you have to chuck all the assets in the bin and start from scratch. And that's not the case. That's what that's what a lot of gamers think. They think you can't reuse assets or anything. They think it must be made from the ground up, from scratch. That's what I'm seeing online. This is what people think.
Yeah, I did. I said with all the God of War, you've just got to build on what you've got. You've got the base there. Obviously you can see they've expanded.
I think it's a massive upgrade.
And new ways of travel, and it's PS5 exclusive.
BMG, can I ask you what is this infatuation, or what's the criteria for people to assume that something is DLC? This is what I'm kind of struggling with. Perhaps I'm just out of the game a bit too much, but I thought I'd ask the question.
To be honest, I don't know. To me,
it's a throwaway comment because just to show that you despise something because you're an idiot.
Yeah, possibly, very possibly. It's like
Sorry to be blunt.
No, it's fine. It's like you take Spider-Man 1. You got the DLCs in the game, but to me that just added to the story. What was there, that just added to what was already there. Spider-Man 2's built on the first one. I personally don't see it as a DLC. I see it as a new game. Yeah, it's still in New York. They've got more boroughs and things opened, and there's going to be more content. But I still see it as a new game. I don't just see it as an expansion. Same with God of War. God of War Ragnarok went back to a lot of places we'd already been to in God of War 2018, but I didn't look and think, oh, this is just like DLC. It's just the same. It's just built on what's already there and added new elements to it. So to me, it's still a new game. I don't see it as DLC. I don't see Spider-Man 2 as DLC personally. I'd see it as a brand new game. It's just built on what was already there, which there's only so many ways you can change New York City around before people complain.
I mean, I played Street Fighter Zero, right? I mean, I know it says going way back, right? Street Fighter Zero, and then Street Fighter Alpha, as it was called, I think in Asia, or was it vice versa? I can't remember. Then they had Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and all they did was added, a couple of more backgrounds and a couple more characters, etc. But I loved the hell out of those games, and I can understand DLC being sort of, labeled towards those games, but people calling Miles Morales DLC, I really enjoyed Miles Morales for what it was, because I paid X amount, I enjoyed it for X amount of hours, and it was more of the same which I previously enjoyed in Spider-Man, just with a different character. And both of those games I fundamentally enjoyed, and what they've done is effectively conjoined the two in this upcoming game from what little we can see, because we can't see the whole picture yet. And I think just calling something DLC for the sake of it, I think it's quite a low rent opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Now it is the games,
but it's one of them. The worlds are beautiful.
People don't know how to think for themselves.
Yeah, you've just got, it's just the building on what's there. Why re-scrap it to rebuild it all again? Because it's still going to look the same. Yeah, build on what you've got. Add more. Include new things, like you saying, VJ, with like the shadows, the lighting, and things like that. Stuff that makes the game more in depth and look even more beautiful. Like, I'm all for that.
It's like me and VJ were talking the other day about, because someone screenshotted a part of the water in Spider-Man. Well, in Spider-Man, I haven't completed it, but VJ obviously has. And he said, generally in the games, you're probably in the water section for probably 1% of the game.
5% of the whole bloody game, yeah.
And your speed past it. It's hardly you know what I mean? It's not something. Water's like, it takes a very long time to get water effects correct.
Spider-Man 1 that came out for PlayStation. Do you know what the biggest complaint everyone had with that game?
Puddles.
The puddles. That was the biggest complaint about the game, was puddles.
So my question, see, the way BMG you should be looking at it, right? Games don't have an infinite amount of time. They don't have an infinite amount of budget, right? No. They do have decent support from a hardware manufacturer. That's a given, correct? Right. So what and the thing is, as a game designer, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the game is, it has to have compromises somewhere. So given the amount of budget and resource that you've got and the time that you've got, right? That trifecta. This is why I say that Insomniac are very good, because they make incremental improvements to their game engine. And when they've got a finite amount of resources that are working on combat, that are working on VFX, that are working on SFX, etc., and so on and so forth, right? So they've got to determine what's the most important aspect that's going to be on screen most of the time. And then it's a cascading effect, right? Then this is going to be the pinnacle, like the Venom powers and all the animations and vignettes that are going to be on display all of the time, 89% of the time. Then there's going to be, the night and day cycle and enemy animations and so on and so on. So Wart was probably way down the list somewhere, right? And I don't know how much CPU overhead, that given everything else that's going on in the environment, that water dynamics and physics takes up. Yeah. But I guess people that have played Horizon Forbidden West probably know better than I do. Right. But I'm kind of just giving you a little bit of context as to, why certain visual effects may not be up to where you think that the standard should be, right? Even though that's personal, right? That's not that you're not speaking for the masses, otherwise the game wouldn't sell, right? And I'm sure it's going to sell, right? Because one thing we do know is that Insomniac no gameplay, right? And I've never had a disappointing experience with an Insomniac game, and I don't think it's going to happen with Spider-Man. And for me, it's a case of it's all about priorities and on-screen time. So if they haven't paid attention to, or they haven't had the time or the resource or the expertise to be spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the water right, you can understand, right, if it isn't going to be a main component of your experience.
Yeah, I'm FPS over graphics.
Wrong, if I'm not being unfair, but
no. I would rather have a smooth frame rate over graphics. I always go performance mode over visual anyway. As long as if the game runs smooth, plays well, graphics don't overly bother me. They never have. I just like it to run well. If the game runs good, I'm happy.
Yeah,
I don't need to see my reflection in a puddle. The other complaint was people were going around the buildings and it was the same room around the corners. Like, who cares? Why are you spending all your time just going around the side of a building to see the same room? Who
cares?
It's
VJ, but Removable Sanity just came in.
Oh, hello. You're an hour
My
late.
serious apologies. Oh God,
You know that this show's going to have to run for an extra hour just to get
an extra. Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was bank holiday weekend, of course, for those who are not in the UK, and literally got back from an outing to the beach, and of course, I conked out. So I fell asleep. Hence the reason why I am very late.
You did a stubs.
Yeah, you did a stubs.
Yeah. Right. I did. Yeah, well, when you're running around with 3 kids up and down a beach all day, it was pretty tiring. So I literally got back, and then I just don't know, collapsed effectively. After I put the kids to bed, just collapsed. It's like, oh crap. And then luckily, Stubb sent me a message, and I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah. But it sounds like I haven't missed much. It sounds like we're going to the old frame rate for stroke graphics argument again.
No.
I can only assume.
No, just people complaining about mundane issues about the splash effects in Spider-Man. When I was saying that's going to be on screen, and you're in your experience for about 0.5% of the game, and the studios have got other priorities, and budgets and time and schedules, and you've got to worry about technical issues and CPU overhead. So it's better that they spend the time, money, and resource on making sure that your overall experience is fantastic, right?
Exactly.
Because Insomniac aren't tearing down their engine to build the Mona Lisa. They incrementally improve their game engine and produce content for a mass market audience.
Yeah, I would gauge it. You want a gameplay that is smooth. That's got to be BMG. Smooth, consistent. Didn't even have to.
Actually, it was me.
No chance.
One of the avatars above YouTube, but then again, you could have been describing a perfect cup of tea there.
I've been drinking quite a bit this weekend,
so he'll be asleep then in the next 35 minutes. No, I would agree with you want a gameplay that's smooth, consistent, and fun. Regardless of graphics fidelity. It's one of the things that indie games produce so well. Their graphic fidelity varies greatly from 16-bit to ray tracing. And as long as the gameplay is fun, that will be the main key for everything. Exactly. I would classify graphics as if it's a gameplay's fun, graphics is a nice to have. Effectively, I know a lot of people will probably go, no. I want it top notch. I agree. I would like things top notch, but
he's not bothered about graphics when he's sitting there with his Sonic. It's all about gameplay for him.
Exactly. So when he's going back on Sonic 1 and 2, he's not going to be worrying about the 8-bit or 12-bit or 16-bit graphics. He's just going to be going, this is an amazing gameplay. Why did I ever think anything other than that? It's going to be one of those situations. But it's that's why it's got exceptionally quiet right now.
I just think it's like anything, right? In terms of everything is around incorporating play into your life that captures and engages your imagination for any long period of time, and then those memories and those good feelings remain with you, whether it's a video game or board game, all the way back to when people used to play music around a campfire or scrolling.
It's the memories.
Scrolling, images inside war caves, right? So, all this other sort of stuff is just that we read and see and hear is just absolutely
perfect example for you, VJ. What game are you currently playing right now? Not MechWarrior 5. Exactly, Zelda. And that's been touted as one of the game of the years already. Now, I don't think that's at 4K, is it? Has that got ray tracing as far as I'm aware of?
Nope. 30 frames per second, 1080p, has VSync issues, has frame rate issues when the alpha effects are going off on screen with explosions and lightning and everything. But it's still, it's mesmerizing in terms of how good it is.
And there you go. That should give you an indication of, if you're engaged in a game.
Oh, let me ask you this, Removable, right? What end of the scale visually is MechWarrior 5 that I've put over 250 hours into?
That's a tough one.
No, I mean comparison to the stuff that you see from high end places these days, right?
I wouldn't say it's a high end. That's a hard thing to do because it's got some fantastic particle effects and it's got some fantastic visual representation, but also it can be pretty poor in some areas. It's a tough one. It's a kind of a mixed bag, I would say. Would I be agreeing? Would you agree with that? It's a mixed bag of graphical fidelities.
I think first of all, I think the game's been out for a while, so I think when it came out.
Yep.
So
it's about 20. Now I could be careful. Now I think it's about 2018.
What I would say, it's
at least
one
for
of those
console
examples. It's greater than the sum of its. It's greater than the sum of its parts, and it's something that it's just got this magic about it, whereby, like you said, it's an underrated game. It's a hidden gem within Game Pass, and if you would but just try to engage with the game the same way that you held my hand playing through Mech Warrior, the same way Indie Gamer held my hand to play through Hollow Knight, you grow to realize the magic behind some of these games. It's not about visuals, not about music. It's nothing. It's about some of its parts. And that's why when people start talking about puddle effects and water effects and this,
you're being hyper picky. I think you're being hyper. Yeah,
it's just nonsense.
Just for you, Stubbs, was that 2021 for console? Because I think it was out on PC a bit earlier.
I'm in the Wikipedia. It says PC, Windows, December the 10th, 2019, Xbox One.
That's where I got wrong. So it's 2019. So I thought it was 2018. It's 2019 for PC, yep, and then 2021 for console. Yep.
Xbox One Series X and S, 27th of May, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Then it came out even later for PlayStation 4 and 5. It was September 23rd, 2021.
Yep. But back to VJ's point, there's. I think we can get a little bit hyper focused. Don't get me wrong, great visuals is fantastic, and you can see now some of the realistic. Have you seen the hyper realistic games that are slightly coming out now, where you can't tell whether it's actual real life versus?
It's frightening, yeah.
It is. It's very frightening. I think it was a guy on Twitter who's like, people were saying, I don't know, this is just some guy filming in real life, and then he shows you the actual the footage and actual how he's created.
And actually show it within the suite, because people literally thought
it shows you the wireframe meshes and the topology, and then the lighting and the vision, all the layers that combine together to produce what you're seeing on screen. And when you can do that, then there's no real argument, right? Unless you spend 5 years doing it.
What I will say is, if that game plays crap, it ain't gonna matter.
No,
it'll be a visual stupenda, and everyone will be like, "This is amazing." But if it plays dull, it will go down the toilet. So, again, hyper visuals doesn't necessarily equate to a good game. No. It's a great thing to have, but it doesn't necessarily equate to a good game. And I think we've had some big hitters that have fallen foul to that, where they put in some amazing graphics but were just horrendous to play, and they didn't last for it, So I think it's Twitter gaming potentially being a little bit hypersensitive to things that probably don't really matter in the end of it. If you're going to be playing that game and enjoying it, are you really going to worry about a splash of a puddle? Really?
Clearly.
I mean, if that's the case, how hyper fixated are you on every other single game? I mean, that must be depressing. Just thinking about it. Oh my God! Look at that! That blade of grass isn't moving. That's it. I'm snapping it. I've been in the game. I'm just deleting it.
You know what it is? Removable. People like to create suffering in their own minds for no apparent reason whatsoever.
I'll tell you what we should do now. We should get our Xbox and Bethesda showcase predictions in.
Cool.
Gears 12. First person.
I'm gonna just pop off for 5 minutes to grab a tea. So I'm gonna leave Removable and BMG to talk. I'll be back.
Well, actually, to be honest, BMG's gone for a poo. He just told us. Oh, no, he's back now. Sorry, he's gone back. Yeah.
So we're going to go and do our predictions for Xbox and Bethesda showcase. Anything we'd like to see, updates, game reveals, surprises, whatever.
Gameplay. It's all I ask. I don't care which game it is. I don't care
You want gameplay
what games they are.
on,
I would like gameplay, not FMV
please
videos.
specify your gameplay.
I don't care. I don't. Do you know what? I do not care if it's Starfield. I don't care what it is. I want
No.
more gameplay than anything else.
No. Specify the gameplay.
What do you mean?
See it on a high-powered PC, or do you want to see it on the Series X?
No. I would
that's
definitely
what
want to
Xbox
see it running
PCs.
on the system that we're utilising. 100%. Yeah.
They've been using PCs.
No, I think that's to me is and this may get a little bit of hate. That to me is like an FMV. It's the highest fidelity, which may or may not work on the Xbox Series X. It may not be representative.
Right.
Put it on the system, showcase it off the system. Now you can still have that little tag that says this is not representative of the final product, because maybe things they tweak things and some things break and then they have to kind of fix it later on down the line. But at least show it something running on the Xbox Series X if you've got it. I mean, otherwise it's just PC. I mean, if it's a PC game that's coming out for PC Game Pass, then yes, showcase it on PC. Showcase on PC. But if it's a game that's supposed to be on the Series X, I'd expect it to be shown on the Series X. I don't want, and the same thing with FMVs. They're niceties to have as a little teaser trailer. Sorry. But overall, I want gameplay. I really one of the things I think I kind of enjoyed with the PlayStation one. It was majority gameplay. There was some FMV there, but majority of it was gameplay. And I was like, yeah, okay, go for it. Now, a lot of people didn't like it due to the games that were showcased, but that's the gameplay. I don't know about you. What do you think, BMG? Do you think I'm talking out of my bum hole?
No. This is the year they've got to come in. They've got to show gameplay. I don't mind if you have a bit of a part CGI in-game trailer or anything, but as long as there's actual gameplay, someone be playing the game. Like I want to see Fable. I do want to. We're probably still ways out from Fable, but give me a bit of a trailer and just a bit of gameplay.
Well, we've seen a bit of a trailer for that, haven't we? We've seen that little fairy flying around and being eaten by the frog. I don't know. Do you know what? I'd actually like to see a little bit, as you said, a little bit of gameplay, even if it's 5 minutes of someone walking across an open field. Give us an indication, something.
Yeah. We need anything this show. I think anything this show we need. Sorry, go on, VJ.
No. I was just going to say to him, I'm having some of these Japanese choco and coffee biscuits. I thought I'd let you know. Sorry, BMG, please.
No, I just said,
Your Highness.
No, I think definitely want to see some Fable gameplay. Definitely some more Starfield gameplay. But
isn't that going to be a separate event on its own, though? I'm hearing this correct, or is that?
Yeah, is it last 20 minutes or half an hour of this show's technically going to be the Starfield Direct? So, if we're including that,
do you know what? I really hope it's not like 30 minutes of. Now, here's another sketch of Starfield, and this is the artist impression of Starfield, and here is the bit of code that we've done for Starfield, and then literally the last 30 seconds is like, maybe someone walking across.
Tom might actually tell people and show people what the fucking game is. You might actually show people, apart from a barren land of on an abandoned planet, you might show people what it actually is.
Yeah, but the idea of the game is you get recruited into Constellation. There's these fragments that are spread out across the galaxy, and they want you to go and collect them all, which is going to open the answers to the universe. That's essentially
sounds like
what it is, isn't it?
Sounds like MechWarrior 5.
Well, if that's the premise of the game, it sounds boring. What does?
Yeah, but remember. Let's face it. That's the story. It's the gameplay that could actually be the thing that keeps you entertained. Yeah. You could have. Let's take. Okay, put it another way. One of the greatest stories ever told, in some people's eyes, is Lord of the Rings. What's it about? One guy walk into a mountain and throwing a ring in it.
Okay.
There you go. That's it. And then he has adventures on the way that kind of make it and make it its own.
Mm-hmm.
But the simplistic narrative is guy picks up a ring and has to walk to a volcano and throw it in. Sounds boring if you kind of just reduce it down to that, doesn't it?
The showcase saying, sorry guys, we missed our internal targets. It's coming out 2024.
Do you want to shoot? If it had a bit of gameplay and they said, actually, no, it has to come out 2024, okay, fine. I'd be happy with that as long as it shows some.
It is.
But no, what I'm saying is, I don't mind if if I don't mind things are delayed if they have a prominent reason to it. If it's there for making the game better. Now, if they said actually it's 2027, maybe that'd be a little bit more miffy. But 6 months to 8 months, I don't mind delays if it means polishing the game so that it is perfect, so that we don't have to worry about day 1, day 2, and day 3 patches.
I have to agree with Removable because we had the exact same conversation about Diablo. Now, let's put financial issues aside, right? But if we had confidence that if there wasn't many other games about, if we didn't have Game Pass, if we had the full-on confidence that on day 1 that the game would have no issues, we'd both be there.
Mm-hmm.
There's that slight reservation because of past trends that this might actually be a cause and effect that may affect this game from this specific studio. So it might be better to wait. So I applaud the fact that there's 2 or 3 betas, which I've never really been involved with up until I was playing Removal, unless I've been involved in the game directly. But the point being is that there's that reservation. So I think that there's 2 things. You've got 2 camps at the moment. One that think that Starfield will be a nominal game, and then you've got the other camp that think it will be a phenomenal game. And then I'm somewhere in the middle saying, you know what, I really want it to be good because I'm kind of ready for, after playing Elden Ring and Zelda, I'm ready for a open galaxy or universal or cosmic adventure, right, on that scale. If they've actually taken the time and promised and revealed it in such a way that, hey, this is the gameplay loop, this is what you'll be doing, without revealing the Venom suit, because BMG will be really upset, and and saying, hey, look, this is the loop, this is what you can infer. We're hiding a load of stuff, and it's going to be in Game Pass, so you've got no excuse not to try it, and here's every reason to do so. And for me, that's exactly where I am, and I'm just really, really looking forward to it because I want it to be good. Because if it can set, I know it'll follow certain tropes or traits that Todd Howard is known for, because that's what he excels at. That's fine. Case of what have they learned from the IPs that they've created? What layers of gameplay or technology have they I forgot the word for it now. Have they layered on top of what they've done before that enhances this outing over and above the games that have gone before from the same studio? And have they innovated? I'm not saying make massive leaps. I'm just saying just nuances here and there, so that new gamers like me are going to come to it and say, "Look, I've never played a Bethesda game, so I'm probably going to like it whether or not, because I'm quite easy with video games." But it's for the people that are generation that have played Skyrim, is it, and Fallout, that are going to want to see. To be honest with you,
I would argue now their greatest competition isn't the fact of their previous titles. The greatest competition for Starfield is the direct genre competition. So currently, right now, they have No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous as very epic space exploration, journey games.
Star Citizen in that category as well?
I would say yes. Star Citizen is also in there. That's probably one of the biggest, to be honest with you. But it's on PC, so when they do the PC,
never be as good as Destiny. How right, BMG?
Never. Nothing is good.
I don't know. I haven't had too much experience with EVE Online. I've heard good things, but I've also had horrendous things about it. So don't know. Starship Citizen, of course, it had huge major issues and embroilments, but they seem to have turned that round from what I'm hearing from the PC community. No Man's Sky had horrendous reviews of it when it first kind of went out, but the team has completely done a 180 on that and made that game to an absolutely superb title that is on Game Pass. And for Elite Dangerous, they were the opposite. They had a fantastic outing and then promptly dumped their console base for PC only. So when it comes to very grand, very big games, there always seems to be something wrong. And so my reservation with Starship Citizen, not Starship Citizen, Starfield. My brain's going. This is what I'm saying. We're working up.
You know that you've created 3 new games and 14 different new genres in the space of 2 minutes.
Exactly. This is how my brain works when I've just woken up. But my biggest worry right now is that it's going to have something a bit like those other games that's broken. Because of the vision that they're trying to create, because each of those games have fantastic scope, almost limitless end play value, and they all suffered with something, whether it is right at the beginning or it is right near the end. Now, I'm hoping that it's not going to be like that, but this is Bethesda. They kind of do have a history of doing something very similar. So again, for me, it's almost like, do you kind of wait 3 months? I mean, Bethesda, if I'm correct, there's certain games they still haven't fixed. Am I correct in that, if I'm remembering?
Not from... Look, I spoke to a PC, and you're spot on, Removable, is the fact that their games are not great out of the box, but they do improve and become great over a period of time. And I don't know that their games that well, but what I will say is that all the games that you mentioned, and I don't know if I'm in the minority, I haven't played, so this will be my first cosmic soap space adventure, shall we say? Is it space opera? Sorry, yeah, space opera. So that's why I'm looking forward to it. So after playing Elden Ring and with you, and then obviously Zelda on my lonesome, thanks for that. And
don't have the system, so I can't help you.
I think for the industry, I think for Bethesda, I think for Xbox, I'm hoping. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying I hope it's great out of the box.
History has anything it's taught me is just be wary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where I am going at right now.
That's why I use the word hope.
It'll be a good game in 10 years. Like Skyrim.
10 years? I don't know if I'll be able to manage a controller.
Well, this way, if it can actually, ironically, if it can hit the levels of Skyrim, because let's face it, Skyrim is still being played, talked about, created content for, even now. That game has been going for how many years, and it's people are still creating content. People have made careers out of that game.
There's a Superman mod in Skyrim now.
I would not be surprised. They have done everything to that game because so many people love it. If it can achieve the same level of success as Skyrim,
and the contribution,
yeah, it will be, But the question is, and I think this is the question I think I'm kind of hesitant is, can lightning strike twice?
Well, Todd Howard did say that obviously once the game's out, he's looking forward to what the modding community and others do with the game. So they're quite open for people going in and doing their own thing anyway.
I think that's just because historically they're just really bad at keeping sorting the game's problems out. If I remember correctly,
why he says that? Because the modding community go in and fix all the bugs for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
As long as I don't have the same mock review company that did the mock reviews for Redfall that are not assigned to Starfield, I'll be happy.
They actually, I'm
I had to get that in.
I'm looking on the Steam page, and they actually have on the Skyrim page to buy it. But they actually, if you scroll down further, they actually have like an official Skyrim special edition creation kit where you can make content and share it with other players across Bethesda.net. So they're very
because then Bethesda then holds the rights for that. Of course, they're going to have that.
Is that why? So most people will use the other way.
I would say so. Yes, yeah. I would because there's a lot of communities on the PC out there who create fantastic mods. But then, I'm not giving it for free, Todd. You should have been doing this way in advance. And there are other people there who will use their system and just say, look, there you go, use it.
Skyrim has 129,987 very positive reviews on Steam.
There you go.
And the last review I can see on here
for which game
was the 6th of May. This is for Skyrim. It's a very, very old game. People are still reviewing it.
And they did a remastered version of it.
Yeah.
Remember, you've played Mass Effect Andromeda, correct?
Yes.
And you've obviously experienced the jetpack in the game, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When you saw the jetpack in gameplay or snippet or vignette or whatever it may have been in Starfield, what were your thoughts?
Clunky.
Andromeda or Starfield?
I would say Andromeda's one was a bit clunky, and I would almost say Starfield was on the similar sort of boat to that, but that could be a creative design. So for Andromeda, I think it was just poor design. Because when you use it is a clunky thing. For Andromeda, you don't know if it's to do with atmosphere, environment. You don't know how tweaked that is. Does that change depending on the planet you're on, depending on the gravity you're on? You don't know. Hence the reason why I'm kind of cautious at giving too much of an opinion on it, because I don't know the context of what it is in. With Andromeda, I know the context off by heart.
Do you think that the failure of Andromeda, and perhaps unlike Starfield, is that they never deferred to jetpack on the spectrum to determine how they should design the actual gameplay for it?
You do ask these bloody tough questions. I mean,
I'm just a joke. I'm sorry, it's just a joke.
It's still a good question. I think it's one of those things. I think for me, I wish it the very best. I hope it comes out. I hope we see gameplay. To be honest, I actually hope for the actual show, I hope we hear about games that we haven't heard about. Like
that'd be great. That would be.
Dark. Was Forever Dark? We've heard nothing about that game, have we?
Did you say Forever Dark or Perfect Dark?
Perfect Dark. Sorry, it's my brain. It's Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark. We haven't heard a single thing about that game. Is it dead?
There's only one guy
is it in the water? On it now, isn't there? That's the question. What's happened to it? Is it gone down the scout? I'm going to
remain consistent here, Removable. But Stubbs Gaming will tell you 2 years ago when that game was shown, I already made my feelings clear to me. I said there's a disaster waiting to happen, and because of everything that Daryl Gallagher said when he joined the company and what he ended up doing there, it was completely the opposite.
True.
And I know where his strengths lie, so I'm going to remain consistent. I hope it's good. I hope it's fantastic, because I know
he was promised new IP, weren't he, to make a brand new IP?
Yeah, he wanted to create new worlds, new IPs, and create stuff that no one had ever seen before. Instead, that Phil probably put his foot down and said, "Now you're making Perfect Dark."
Personally, I'm going to be absolutely disappointed if Scalebound doesn't come out this year.
He's not making it. Crystal Dynamics is making it. They're doing
Scalebound?
No, Perfect Dark. All the work's been done by third-party studio Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about who's making it, who's involved, but the fact that I think what Removable is saying is that, hey, look, this studio was established in 2018, now in 25 years later, and all we've seen is an internal, how can I call it, storyboarded trailer just to keep everyone's vision in line with what they're supposed to create. And that was an internal uses only. I've never seen something like used for public, but obviously they were probably desperate at the time to fulfill out their studio, their presentation, which is fine, no issues. But I just never seen it done before. It's a first for me. And
it's also got a huge fan base. The irony is it has got a huge fan base, and so if they cock it up, it's going to go wrong.
Yeah, that's one of his favorite franchises. Sorry, I had to get that out there.
Sergeant Sort of Game says Scalebound is not coming back. I disagree. I reckon it's going to come back with fruition. Isn't that right, Stubbs?
Yeah, and its sequel as a double pack.
Oh, look, Gears 1.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Stubbs? Because obviously you're the authority on this, right? People are talking about DLC as a throwaway low-rank comment, but wouldn't you just say then Gears 2 and Gears 3 are just DLC?
What makes it DLC?
That's exactly the question I posed about an hour ago.
Gears 2 and Gears 3 are definitely not DLCs.
There you go.
Gears 1, 2, and 3 define generations.
I like the fact you didn't say 4 and 5 there. That was telling, wasn't it?
I can't say that, can I? As much as Gears 5 is good,
look, you know he's referring to 4 and 5 as stepchildren, right? So.
They Hivebusters is. I hope Gears 6 is more like Hivebusters, because Hivebusters actually graphically, narrative-wise, story, everything was better than Gears of War 5. They were using UE 4.5 in Hivebusters.
Yeah, but the trouble is also with that, it is a much more grittier, vicious, downright storyline, which is what everyone has wanted.
Exactly.
But so, are you saying that your showcase is a new DLC, is a new DLC or new Gears?
I want Gears 5 or a Gears collection, one or both.
I'd like.
You don't want to see a Gears Tactics 2. That hopefully.
Don't you not Gears Tactics? Gears Tactics was good.
Hopefully that's been axed.
I'd like to see that old bloke in Hivebusters. If I saw Hivebusters 2, I'd be really happy. I don't know much about Gears of War, but I do know that I had a lot of fun with you and Removable on Gears Hivebusters. I don't know what the exact defining title is for that. But if they announce Hivebusters 2, I'd be ecstatic. I think
they're going to continue the story somehow. It would make sense, I think.
Did you enjoy it though? Did you enjoy it, BMG? Did you enjoy it, Removable?
Hivebusters, yeah, I very much did. Yeah.
Gears of War. What are you on about?
What's Gears of War? Oh, is that game where they did about 5 of them the exact same thing? Oh yeah. Because it's the one where that last one where you find out that your granny's
Don't have a go about the Charted series. It was a good that.
The granny was banging the aliens or the Hive, whatever you call them. The made her or something. Is that right?
Yeah, but Dreadpool, I know what you're saying about sequels, but all games need to build off the same assets to build off. So basically, we might as well say that every game ever made that has a sequel is a DLC.
Yeah, but Gears is the exact same for every game.
Because no company scraps all the assets and rebuilds from the scratch.
Well, to be honest with you, that's what wasn't that the argument for God of War 1 and 2? They were saying, "Oh, look, it's the same assets." It's like, yes, that's right, but they've made the secondary. I think it's God of War 2 assets look a little bit better. Yes, the motions were still the same, but why?
Let me ask you this, Removable. If MechWarrior 6 came out and they messed with the animations and explosions and the VFX and the SFX with the helicopters, I'd be upset.
Yeah, I think there is certain things. I think it's the old phrase, isn't it? If it works, what's the old phrase? If it works, don't change it or something like that.
If it's broke, don't fix it.
That's it. If it's been broke, don't fix it. Certain things on certain games work perfectly, and you don't want to mess around with it. For Gears, it was the cover system. They did tweak a few things there, and that did piss a few people off. But the same thing. There are certain things that just you don't mess around with. You keep to it. It's like, for instance, Gears, the next Gears. If they got rid of the shotgun, I can guarantee you now, Stubbs would not play it.
Oh, you're invoking violence. The game would die. I'm telling you, the game would absolutely, people would be raging. And by the next day or next week, Coalition and Xbox would be announcing, we're adding the Ganasha gun. The pressure would be unreal. I would put up the pressure. It wouldn't be video.
He'd be sitting outside the studio naked, saying, "I'm going to stay here until you put it back right."
I'd invite all my Gears community I know on special podcasts, call it "Bringing the Ganasha Back." It was that much pressure.
What if they did, but it was a £10 to DLC it?
Well, no, because Xbox already bang on about its Game Pass, so it'd be free.
See, I always used to just think DLC was just an addendum to existing content, and that's fine. Yeah, but to say that, they've reused this, they've reused that, and now it's DLC, and I just think that's just a really low. It's an easy way to attach a stigma to something that you don't particularly fancy or rate.
I think we just mentioned that. It said your theory remakes are sequels. We've been saying it. I think, to be honest with you, some DLC can be used as jumping off points. Where you don't want to spend too much money starting something fresh, but you can use it as a jumping off point for it as a DLC. So kind of like a mini, will this work? Let's see if the community will appreciate it. This is a new way of doing things. Let's see if
they should survey with games like Gears. They should survey the community. And they haven't done anything.
That's kind of but that's, to be honest with you, the fan. I think
that's hard, though, isn't it? Because you're right. Because you're right.
You're just going to stir up division, and it ain't going to work. It is not worth it.
You're going to push the franchise forward, and you've got people like me going, "Oh no, multiplayer has to be Ganasha only." You know what I mean?
I tell you what. I would like to see a first-person version of Gears. I've been saying it a few times. I think that would be pretty cool. Or at least
removable, aren't there mods for that sort of thing on PC? Or am I being?
That's what you get for that.
No, it's just a genuine question. I'm just, because I know the modding community is quite huge.
Is the what?
I was asking if there was mods on PC that allow you to play Gears of War in FPS mode.
I don't think there is.
No,
I'm not 100% sure.
Because of anti-cheat, etc. But there is
no. For the single player, I wouldn't do it for multiplayer. I was just saying for single player. Can you imagine that? Say, for instance, remember the first game? You're going through the actual cell as a first-player story with your chainsaw gun, with your.
Yeah, but in Removable, Stubbs would issue some sort of DMCA takedown notice to whoever put it out there, right? Put the mod out there.
Yeah, I'll be like, let's get this.
Well, I think the reason why I was saying it would be an interesting idea is because it's already been done once before with another franchise, and those who know about that franchise would instantly know which one I'm talking about, where it was a third person, fixed camera perspective, and they went first person, and if done well, it can actually revitalize a franchise. And for those who don't know, I'm talking about Resident Evil. So it can be done. It's a question of whether it can be done.
Rough to say.
Well,
but on showcase, all I want to see at the Xbox showcase is a Gears of War game. Literally.
We knew that. Honestly, we knew that was going to be the case. We was hoping you were going to say something completely different. I don't know,
It's 4 years now, so it'll be obviously with next year, it'll be 5 years.
Do you know what's going to happen for you, Stubbs? They're going to have a Gears of War mobile game.
I'll play it. I like the Gears of War. I like the Gears of War Funko Pop game, and I was gutted when they removed it because I enjoyed it. So there you go.
See, there you go. Come on.
I'm
You
not much of a
enjoyed the
fanboy
you enjoyed the Funko Pop game, yet you couldn't stand the tactics game.
No,
That tells me all I need to know.
I just watched all the lore they had in the tactics game. Didn't want to. Too slow, you see. Gears games have to be fast.
Well, this is where I think you should have played
online. A lot of people's opinion. If you're not used to playing Gears or online, as in the multiplayer, you will think it's a very quick game. But when I played the Gears 5 multiplayer, I think it's a very slow game.
Well, it depends. It all depends on what character you was using. Remember, I was support for most of that, and so for me, it was bloody quick because I had to keep you guys alive because you get bloody dying.
That's the co-op. That was Horde. I want about actual multiplayer where you shoot humans.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
It's a very slow game. It's got a high skill gap, you see. Because of people like me running around with shotguns. But the greatest thing I do is I like to kill what I call the Call of Duty boys that try and play the game. They just go around with the Lancer guns and shoot. I enjoy running right around them and boom.
Well, that's it. You're the one hit shot where the Lancer actually can pin you down and keep you at bay. It's all about tactical aspects. So
not many of them can do that though.
No. Also, if you're a very good Lancer player, you'll know how to quickly flick from Lancer to chainsaw before they get to you.
Sniper people. I'm not one of them.
Yeah, so that's another good thing. If you're a good sniper player, you can rack up some serious kills.
Yeah, they annoy me, they do. But at least I respect they've got skill. I don't.
You have to. Oh, come on! You have to have skill with a sniper. The amount of movement you have to kind of lead your shots all the time.
But no, basically, Gears is what I want to say because it's
nothing else.
I think Gears always gives a Xbox show, even Halo gives accents an Xbox show, and so I hope it's there. But I don't know if we've heard from BMG in terms of what he'd like.
Sorry about that, BMG. What would you like to see from the show?
I was just watching paint dry while you were talking about Gears.
Foster's.
I'll be very angry if it's not there. Trust me, I've been waiting for it for years. You know how you're supposed to suspend your disbelief and not get upset? I often get upset because Gears of War's not there. I tried.
You're gonna get the Gears of War, the board game announcement, and watch people play it for 10 minutes.
Hang on, that's already out, mate.
And the chessboard, and the card game, and also the Pokemon.
The card game's already out.
You're gonna get the second version. I want to see Indiana Jones. The film's out next month. All the films and the TV shows coming to Disney Plus. I want to see the game. I want to see some of that game now. That's all I'm bothered about. Not bothered about anything else. Just Indiana Jones. That's what I want.
Let's hope it's better than the last film because it's got absolutely slated. Oh God!
When was the last film released?
What, Indiana Jones?
Yeah,
it's this year.
Crystal Skull, wasn't it?
No, the previous one.
Oh,
3 years ago now.
Must be 2018, 19. Stubbs, you're on.
It was before the pandemic. It was before the pandemic.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, I thought it was just before the pandemic.
And does this new Indiana Jones have a subheading, or is it just says Indiana Jones at the moment?
We just know it's Indiana Jones. But the
Indiana Jones and the rise of CGI.
Yeah.
Because I'm not joking. What they've done here, and apparently it does look pretty good, is they've actually used AI and a blend of CGI to basically regress the characters' visual features to make them look younger in certain scenes. And apparently it is. Have you seen was it a TikTok trend where they got a guy who basically had an AI put his face of Tom Cruise on him and he pretended he was Tom Cruise? And it was actually a deep fake. It's a very similar sort of system they're using for Indiana Jones for a younger person when he's in a younger, because I think from my gauging, it's all to do with different time periods. You find something that will flicking backwards and forwards through time a little bit, and so he's going to see his younger self, his older self. Well, he's old anyway, but younger self, stuff like that.
Final Fantasy 16.
But apparently that sort of aspect to it is pretty good. It's just what I'm hearing is the story's horrendously bad. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I can't raise any judgments on that. But the critics, was it something like, it was like 5 or something stupid like that, or something like that?
I love
or
all
11?
the Indiana Jones films. I love them all. Dial of Destiny out at the end of June. I'm looking forward to it.
You're telling me you're a Crystal Skull fan, are you?
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind the film. It wasn't as bad as people. The ending story's a bit far fetched, but it was all right film. It still had that bit Indiana Jones humor in it.
It's so far fetched. It's actually true.
Yeah, the truth is out there.
It was. At that point, it did kind of enter the Mulder and Scully dimension. I was waiting for Mulder to be just sitting around the corner going, "Told you."
Give me back my sister.
Honestly, it did feel like that. I was just waiting for him to sit there, maybe just as a cameo going, "They've got my bloody sister." Honestly, it was.
But I like the Indiana Jones films. I even like God, that TV show back from the 90s, the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones. I remember used to watching that every Sunday.
Dear God, that's a memory from a hole that I've just thought I'd blocked.
Coming to Disney Plus in a couple of weeks as well. I couldn't believe it. I'm gonna have to rewatch it to realise how crap it was.
I think to be honest, there's a lot of nostalgia in our heads at this point. I think to be honest, the first 3 I think will probably age well up to the Sean Connery one. I think will age well. Anything after that, I think anything after that may. I think they just went into the campness too much. I think what was Indiana Jones really good at was embracing a little bit of campness, but also embracing a little bit of reality as well as some amazing action stunts. I think sometimes they lean too much into the campness and not into the actual stunts themselves.
So some of it was like just didn't make sense. Where he climbed into the fridge when that nuclear bomb went off, and it just flung him in the fridge, and he climbed out the fridge, and he's like, stuff like that. But it's just fun. It's just
at least with the Temple of Doom, where he's actually on the minecart, you could. Okay, it is a little bit out there, but you could still think it was in the realm of reality, wasn't it? It was it was in the realm of reality to a degree. Kalima.
Pulling the heart out through the chest. Weird stuff.
Tell me you didn't do that to your childhood friends when you watched that, pretending to grab their heart and going Kalima.
I'll do that to the kids now when they annoy me.
The kids are freaking out. Daddy's at it again.
He's trying to rip my heart out of my chest.
I don't know. I think there is a little bit of nostalgia. I don't know. So you're after the Indiana Jones. Is there any other one that you potentially would like to see besides?
There is a game, but it's not first party. It's third party.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing.
James Bond from IOI.
I'd
love to see that. I'd love to see how they're doing it and their take on it. Because that got announced 2021. I think it was teased in 2021 at the Xbox
think
show.
It was. Something like that,
yeah. So I'd like to see the James Bond game as well.
Didn't they mention a remake of GoldenEye? Was it GoldenEye? No, it was
not IOI Interactive.
No, it was another one. I'm sure again, maybe I'm completely out of it, but I thought there was a remake of one of the James Bonds. I could be completely out of it. Ignore me. I'm sure the chats are saying you're a complete idiot.
Yeah, to be honest, as long as they show whatever they show, because they've got to obviously seen the PlayStation showcase, seen how people's reactions were to that, warranted or not. I think this is like their best opportunity to come out swinging, maybe some last minute changes and just hit us with first party exclusives gameplay.
Do you think? Because that's another thing I would like to say. Do you think and we are kind of jumping to the PlayStation one. Do you think it was bad as people say it was? Because I said we was watching it, it was like, yeah, this is really good. It's got some great indies in there. I didn't think it was that bad. I don't think it was. I think there's a lot of high expectations, and it probably needed a few more AAAs in it. But overall, I quite enjoyed it, and I was surprised to hear so many people go, "It's awful," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
We were chatting about it at the beginning of the show. Me and Ash, we live streamed the showcase as well. We sort of give it 2 scores: one for what we saw, and one what we would put as a PlayStation showcase. But as you know, that's because out of expectations of expecting first party and third party exclusives. From that sense, I think I'd put it at a 5 for a PlayStation showcase. But from what games were there and what we saw, it was a really good show, and I think we put 8 out of 10. But that's because the PlayStation stuff they showed, apart from Spider-Man, was all CGI. But what they showed, though, and the games that were there were awesome. You know, I was disappointed. The one I was actually disappointed with was the Metal Gear Solid. We all knew it was going to be there, but we got nothing but that CGI teaser. They could have shown a little bit of gameplay, or anything. Even had David Hayter say, "Kept you waiting, huh?" You know.
Well, this is the thing. That's the question at the moment. We don't know if David Hayter is going to be in it. He hasn't. I'm actually following him on Twitter, and he hasn't. He's kept very quiet because obviously Keith Sutherland went in for the latest one, and that did get a bit of a backlash. But a lot of people actually quite liked Keith Sutherland's voice as well. So it's a question of if they're doing a remake. I would like to think they stick to the route and get David Hayter back to do new dialogue lines potentially. I wouldn't want to see his lines done by any other person, because he has that iconic voice, and you could tell the difference between the latest Metal Gear Solid and the previous ones.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he's got such a history with that franchise, and 9 times out of 10, also he's done things to that franchise where not many voice actors would. I don't know if you know about this, but I think I don't know if it was the second or the third one, he actually cut his own personal pay, to help fund the game.
Oh, really? Oh, no,
yeah, it actually helped fund. It helped fund the game, and I think it was also give some of the other studio money, because they would say, "Look, it's just too expensive. We can't do this. We need more money here." I think if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he cut his own. Wage for it. He's renowned for looking after that. That franchise, he absolutely loves it. So
because they've renamed it, haven't they? It's Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. That's what the remake's called. But they're also releasing the Metal Gear Solid, the Metal Gear Volume 1 collection, which is Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. But I would have thought they would have been remasters, but they're not. They're just pretty much updating the control system, but it's going to be the games in their original version.
My gut feeling is they're probably testing the water out with the remaster, see if it does well. If it does well, then they'll go back and do the rest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think they're going to, because a lot of people they've wondered why they're doing 3 first and not the first one. It's like, well, 3's technically the first game because it goes 3, 5, 1, 2, 4. Which is the actual order of the games, chronological order of the games. So it makes sense to do 3 first, because that would introduce everyone and how Snake became who he became, Big Boss, and so on. But
don't spoil it. It's only been out for like 20 or bloody thousand years.
That's true. That's true. But it's just that they could have shown something, just even if it was for 30 seconds.
You don't know again if this has just started, because it never gave us a date, did it?
Yeah, it's out this year.
Oh, it is out this year.
Yeah, 2023.
Then I'm wondering then maybe you'll see a gameplay footage at the Xbox showcase.
Hopefully, because it's not exclusive. The collection exclusive, but the Cold Collection Volume 1, so that I'm assuming that means we're going to see like Acid and substance, all the other ones coming. Hopefully 4 as well, because 4 is just stranded on the PlayStation 3. They can't, for whatever reason, they can't get it backwards compatible on the PS5. You can't play it on the PS4. It's just stranded there on that PS3, which is a shame because 4 was a good game.
It's true. But what about you, Stubbs? Besides Gears 6, is there any other game?
I'd like to see some surprises. Hopefully they announce that they've cancelled Perfect Dark and working on a new IP, which should have done to start with.
That would piss off a lot of people.
Don't care. I think it's a waste of time.
No, I would love to see a new Perfect Dark game. Absolutely, it is a great franchise. Needs to come back. Same as Time Splitters. Get Time Splitters. I want that. I want an updated version of that.
All the leaks I've seen, well, they're not leaks, they're all made up, basically. None of it impresses me.
Well, that's because it's leaks. You don't know whether it's true or not.
No, they're just the games. Vow, Fable. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them.
I haven't been watching the leaks. I've been keeping away from that sort of thing.
Wait, it's all fake, mainly. People just keep making their own lists on Photoshop. You can see it.
Yeah, but it's got confidential written across it. It must be real.
Wow.
That's like when you get one of those emails that says, this is from a trusted sender.
I mean, a lot of the games I haven't really seen much on. They probably are good, just that until you see the games, gameplay, etc. at the showcase or whenever, then you get excited if you like the look of it. But until then, it's pretty difficult to. Because I'm excited for this, that, and the other, but I haven't really seen anything. Have you? You've seen like a green light trailer.
I'll tell you one thing we haven't talked about: the Devolver Digital Showcase, because that always hits brilliantly. I don't think I found a Devolver Digital Showcase that I haven't liked.
It's also what's it called? Future Game Show. It's always good.
Yeah. That's probably been the only one that is consistent in providing entertainment, gameplay, enthusiasm, and it's just a joy to bloody watch. Honestly, I'm trying to think of one that they produced that I haven't enjoyed. I can't think of one.
But no, in general, the Xbox Showcase, I hope to come out with a load of games that I want to play, just like I did with the PlayStation Showcase, and looking forward to it. Hopefully, there'll be some nice surprises. There'll be some gameplay showed off, and about games that I weren't sure about. Hopefully, like Starfield. Hopefully, I'll come out and I'm hyped. I want to play it. I do, because that's what it's all about: having fun and gaming. To be honest, it's.
Have we determined if we're going to be? Is that a streamed live, or is that going to be a retro?
That's after
class.
I can't stream it. I can't do that. It's too early for the kids in the house. It's 6 o'clock UK time, isn't it? So I could just about get away with watching it. Do you know what I mean? Not
it.
Yeah,
that's going to be a bit of a kicker for us, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's 6. Is that right, BMG? 6 o'clock UK.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Which means BMG will be sitting by the Barbie with his Fosters.
Oh yeah.
Watching it.
Volleyball.
He'll be there. He'll be at headquarters. You'll see BMG walk out, and he'll be there. Him and Phil. Phil's on stage, and BMG walks on stage with Jim Ryan
with a Sonic mascot. Actually, that's probably the only case you'll see him wear a Sonic mascot, as if he was actually invited to that showcase. Isn't that right, BMG?
Trying to frame Sega for pushing Phil Spencer off the stage.
Oh, bless. I don't know. It's an interesting one. And actually, we haven't spoken about one thing. They may be producing a hardware as well. We're thinking games and software. What hardware are they going to drop?
Don't think they can drop anything, to be honest.
Well, we didn't think PlayStation was going to drop a handheld, but look at that.
That was kind of leaked a while ago.
Project
but that was.
Keystone?
What was that? Sorry,
Keystone, because they sort of pulled it back, didn't they? After it was announced.
That little dongle.
Yeah, but they've made,
okay.
apparently reworking it to include more of the instead, because it was just going to be a Game Pass streaming stick, wasn't it? But I think they're trying to include more stuff into it. But who knows? Maybe we'll get another color controller.
It may be. Actually, I forgot about that once. Yeah, no, you might be right there.
It could be. It could be Elite controller with a screen on it.
Well, there's loads of controllers, but Xbox are the best at controllers. No other company's got as many controllers as Xbox. They can sink the oceans, they can, with the amount of controllers they've got.
All that plastic.
I know.
Not good for the environment, are they?
Well, Xbox is meant to be neutral something by
Carbon neutral.
Yeah, you're right. All them data servers around the world, I'm really sure they're going to do that. But yeah, crack on with that goal if you want. It's never going to happen, but it sounds good on paper. It does.
Gives you a nice tax cut.
Yeah. BJ, have you got any other games you want to see or excited for?
I think Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft did, and obviously a couple of the other publishers that Removable mentioned, notable ones. I think they're all trying their best to move the industry forward, and all I want to see is progress, right, onwards, and perhaps even upwards, right. But upwards is very difficult to do. I feel Removable, you weren't here, but you've got a lot of people watching these events every year, and not just this industry, but many events where people, before they've even seen anything, are already determining whether their cup is half full or half empty. And for me, it's just a case of, I think that we kind of still live in a time right now where comfort in a generation, comfort and convenience for our generation is above and beyond that anyone or anything has experienced before. But even though there is progress in terms of the amount of content that's going to be available for us to see and surprise us, I'm sure there's going to be something for everybody. And like you said in the PlayStation show, there's nothing to be mad about. There's probably more content there than you can consume within a year. We can afford, but yet people aren't happy. And so even though we've moved forward, technologically moved forward, people are no more happier than they were maybe 50 years or 100 years ago. Because people take, take mod cons such as water from a tap. It's not a small thing, right? People take it for granted, and no need to carry a pail or pots of water, or carry pots of water on your head like many countries in Africa and Asia, well, children still do, right? So for me, it's just a case of Xbox just doing whatever they can to make Game Pass as attractive as they can. Hopefully not increasing the price, because that would be a big drop, wouldn't it, for the show? No, I'm just kidding. It's just a joke. Sorry, just tongue in cheek. And for me, it's a case of from an inward-looking perspective, because I don't mind what they show, because I'm sure there's going to be stuff there that I am going to want to play, and I probably won't even get the time to play, because there are, as you say, remember, hidden gems within Game Pass already. And for me, as I say, from an inward-looking perspective, and because I don't want Indie Gamer to DM me death threats, is hopefully they'll have a small or update for Silksong. I know that Hollow Knight is not for everybody. I know that there's it has a huge following in relative to how the game came about and the size of Team Cherry and the units it sold. And I know it's not Zelda or whatever, World of Warcraft or whatever, but it taught me a lot, Silksong, about game design, about level design, and what 2 or 3 people can do combined together in order to, because I've been thinking about indie gamers and AAAs, and I really hate the terminology. And as I said, you weren't here, Removable, but I kind of just stumbled upon, indie games are more about people telling their personal stories versus AAA games where it's a collective passion, but both are goals which should be celebrated regardless of how they perform, because no one sets out to make a bad game, right? But the thing is, if there is a bad game that's out there that's not universally received well, yes, some of them, in some instances, if you've got the power, resource, and influence, you can fix them, i.e. Bethesda, and some games may fall by the wayside and may have incremental improvements made to them, i.e. Redfall. But there's always something to be learned from the next generation of game designers, developers, whether it's on a online course, a university course, or you've been inducted into a recruitment program at a developer. Everything there is there to teach you something if you just look at it, right, and observe it without the noise. So I think I'm digressing from what the question actually was. I don't know why, but something's happening to my brain after this cup of tea. There's been something imbued into into my tea bag, which is I'll have to talk to my wife, or it might have been these new coffee choco biscuits from Japan. They might have some magic mushrooms imposed on them. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the show Removal. There's not that much out there these days that engages my imagination. So I always look to gaming because there's just I just have a huge passion for it, as you do, as does Stubbs, and as does BMG, and as does even though perhaps no one's really listening to the show, we just enjoy having a conversation about something we really love. And for me, it's just a case of just ensuring that the industry progresses in the right way. What that means for you as an individual, I'm not here to preach or teach or ask you to follow a specific, mantra. It's just as long as it puts a smile on my face at the end of the day, I'm really happy. But even if it doesn't, I'm sure there's a takeaway if you just want to observe it rather than hope and anticipate that it must be good, it must be this, it must be that. Because as soon as you start doing that, you're already setting yourself up for something
failure.
Yeah, or I'm not sure if failure. I wanted to use failure, but I'm really trying to be careful with the words that I use these days, because even though I say something, and you have no idea how many times I finish a podcast or put a phone down or review what I've said, and I slap myself for not choosing the right word, because words can be cutting. And I said this earlier. I don't know if it was here Removable, but I said if you put S in front of words, you get swords. And it can be very cutting, and hence the pen is mightier than the sword, or perhaps pens not as used as much as these days, other than people's voices, and a lot of people speak without thinking. Not BMG though, because he only quotes only fools and horses, which is gospel. And unless he's making a cross reference between what is it, Destiny and Gears of War. I know he's got a pillow with Gears of War on one side and Destiny on the other. Love marriage made in heaven or hell. I don't know which one that is going to be.
It sounded like you said a love pillow he's got.
A love pillow. For him and Stubbs, yeah. So when this week, but no, I think Silk Song. I really do hope, because I don't know if I said this before on the show, Mr. Stubbs, is that when I played the first Hollow Knight, I couldn't put it down. I was so afraid that my your reflex actions on the controller, that I thought that mine were done and dusted, and I stuck with it. And Indie Gamer would come onto my Xbox and speak to me and just encourage me to keep playing, and somehow Removable, my dexterity came back. That's why I'm kind of more attached to it than it just being a good game, because it brought back something that I thought I'd lost physically. So you can understand the sentimental attachment to it, right? But when I played the game, when I came across Hornet, which you do a couple of times, because she's got a cameo appearance within the game and she's at pivotal points within the storyline, I said to India, I said, this character should have its own game. And then lo and behold, the game was announced. So I kind of I don't know if you want to put that as fate or whatever, but that's why I'm really, really looking forward to it. And what I've seen of it, and the music that I've heard, and the intro that I've seen, and it was released 4 years ago, right? The trailer on the Nintendo Treehouse, whatever it is, 4 or 5 million views, and I'm kind of trying to be as patient as I possibly can. So if I had to choose one game that I had to play above and beyond, and there's a lot of franchises like out there. Removable knows I'm a massive fan of Rise of the Robots to make a comeback, especially if we love graphics and don't like gameplay. And just any information in regards to, and I'm fine if there isn't, but if you're asking me to look selfishly inside myself, just on this one occasion, it would have to be in regards to Silk Song, because it's even when I'm playing Zelda or MechWarrior 5, I think about the potential of that game. And when I observe the body language of those two chaps, and I should say the three chaps, right? Even the guy making the music for that game, that have been available on Twitter and here and there, and the few very rare segments when they actually speak, you can see that they're extremely passionate, but they've got this really calming approach to game development, and a very there's a word for it, Removable. I can't think of it right now. Your vocabulary is pretty good, right? But they've got a very calm and very relaxed approach to making video games, and I really, really like it. It's rare to see, and so a joyful approach is one way of putting it. And I hope it's above and beyond it being released. I hope it's really, really good. And so that would be my pick from now to the end of the year for the game, if I had to choose one game to play. And Spider-Man is slowly getting there for me. I haven't seen enough yet, and as I was saying, that I've played 1 and 2, and 3 is like, okay, I know what to kind of expect, and I understand BMG's sort of saying that showing the Venom stuff was a bit of a spoiler for him, and I completely get that. But there's also an argument as to why they had to show it, just to pull away from perhaps the narrative of just being the same game as before. I don't know what's happened to BMG's icon, but it's bloody scary.
Hang on. Do you know what? You mentioned a pillow, and he bought his wife a pillow with his face on it. He's showing you it.
Why is there
no wonder we're all scared.
Why is there no gins and knife marks on it?
It's currently buried on the rocking chair at the moment, but because I said to my wife I was going to get something unique that someone has never ever got before, so she was quite excited. I think it was for our anniversary gift.
An orgasm?
Anniversary, yeah, that as well. And before she opened it, I said, "You've got to promise wherever you go, you take this with you." She's like, I promise. Can I open it?" And she opened it, and it was just I got my face put on a face pillow, and it's just a horrible expression, and she absolutely hates it.
I was just sorry.
Perfection.
You got a comment in the chat from Thimber about Hollow Knight and not being able to get past the first mini boss. So I'm not sure how far you got, Mr. Stubbs, but that's fine. It's
if it's a mini boss, he might think it's a mini boss. It may not be.
But it's just not. It's just the pacing of the game, not just in terms of story, the music, the level design, but in terms of how you gather your upgrades, the system of upgrades, and how you can mix and match all the upgrades that you receive to empower your character in a very specific way to determine that not just determine that complements the way that you want to approach the game. And that kind of flexibility is very rare. I know it's there in MechWarrior Removable, and that's probably why I like both games. Mm-hmm. And even though there's such contrasting games, but you know me, right? I don't say no to any game. If you show me, if I'm not too sure about it, and sometimes I'm a bit slow on the uptake in terms of what the hell is this. But if someone's there to help me, just to say, hey, look, do this, and then I'm on my way. If that makes sense, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I tell you what, it's been a great show, but I think 2.5 hours.
That's not long enough. Removable's only been here for 22 minutes.
Exactly.
Not my fault.
I blame Stubbs.
It's not my fault. So anyway, it's been a great show. It has. BMG, thanks for coming on. And do you want to promote where you be and where you're going to be tomorrow night?
It's our guests that make it great.
I won't go that far with me. But yeah, no, thanks for having us on. It was fun. It was fun to be back
fun
on
till I turned up,
guys. Yeah. Oh no! I was gutted when you weren't here at the start. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Bowman Gamer, Xbox Bowman Gamer, PlayStation Bowman Gamer 86. You can find me also over the XPN Network, where we have the PSN Party Podcast, which is tomorrow 8:30 p.m. BST, and the XBL Party Podcast on Thursdays at 8 p.m. BST. And I think, it's this week we'll be doing, this Sunday, 8 p.m. BST, we'll be doing the Destiny Party Podcast, I think, depending how the week goes. But that's where you can find me. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Much appreciated, sir.
And VJ, can you tell people where they can find you?
No,
I know you're not into that.
no. You can find me
On here.
On here. For the Xbox event, obviously I'm going to be doing the post-show event with yourself and Removable. Hopefully, Removable won't be at the beach that day, and but
So it's like a hot dog at the moment.
but during I will be doing covering the live event at the moment with Boom on his show. So he's kindly invited me on. So because there's plenty of notice there, so I can do that. So I'll be doing that, and then I'm really looking forward to the event, like everybody. And what I was saying to the other two earlier, I was saying, you know what, it just seems like yesterday that we saw the Xbox event. Time goes by quickly, and it's just a matter of days until the event. A series of events, and I think BMG, he's got a calendar printed up on his monitor or something, because he just read them all off like as verbatim. It was like, wow.
He's
really
got it
impressive.
tattooed down. That's what I reckon.
Really impressive. Or perhaps he's had a pillow made up with all the instructions on. I don't know. But and handed that to his wife in exchange for the one that she doesn't like. And I think she's probably washing it so much that hopefully that your picture would fade out, BMG.
If she'll never forget. And she has to take it with her everywhere. She's gone to stay at mum and dad's for a few days. We've been school holidays here, and she's made her take it with her.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay, cool.
Vicious, man. Vicious.
But thanks for having me on the show, Mr. Stubbs. I do enjoy coming on, and I'm hoping for the day when we have zero watching, because then I can say what I really feel.
Thanks for coming on.
Never going to happen.
Thanks for coming on, Removable Sanity. It was great of you to come on today.
Even if it was only half the time, because I was asleep for the first part of it.
I got a message. He was like, I fell asleep. It was like, you could tell it was like he just literally looked at his phone.
Well, there's a particular phrase I said prior to that he probably gave it the biggest.
I'll say it, bollocks. Sorry, I fell asleep. Hang on.
Actually, I've just got a thank for Removal. My nephew's, he's just come back, and he's been with me for a few days, and he's actually just come back from Japan from being there for about almost a month. And
that's where you got your chocolate from.
No. There's lots of. Where I live, right? I live in an Asian community where there's Chinese, Japanese, Korean predominantly, and then there's me. It's the odd one out, but yeah, I'm just I live in pretty much in Southeast Asia, basically a mini version of Southeast Asia.
Yum.
He's come back and updated me on Japan and all the experiences, and he's desperate to go back. He's even starting to learn Japanese, and he keeps asking me, "Look, when do you think you'll be free to go with me?" But I was just really pleased that even after 3 decades of, I went to Japan. When did I go first? 91, something like that. Anyway, the point being that it can still have the same effect it did in my lifetime 30 years ago, that it can have that same effect on another generation of
I think so,
yeah. And so it hasn't lost its charm, regardless of what's happened in Asia and in Hong Kong especially, and happening in Taiwan to some degree, and Singapore, etc. But Japan still has managed to have that magical effect on people. And I say that because obviously Akihabara isn't the gaming mecca that it once was, but yeah,
It'll get there. No, it's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
So where can we find you, Removable Sanity?
Where can you find me?
In Tokyo. You'll find him in Tokyo, live from Tokyo.
Oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I tell you, that'd be absolutely great. You can find me, Removable Sanity, on Minds, Twitter, Xbox, and YouTube under that name. So feel free to join me there at any point, and you'll see me randomly talking about indie games. And if not there, at least on this podcast, until Stubbs gets pissed off with me, the fact that I've fallen asleep again and kicks me out.
Don't forget to plug when's your next review dropping?
The next review should be next week. I'm trying to time that well, because there's other things going on at the same time. So I'm trying to work around it. But yes, it should be going next week, and it will be for Bolt Gun. which is just recently come out.
He wasn't at the beach having fun. He was at the beach because he's about to buy some beachfront property.
Master, no chance. I've seen some of those huts. Trust me, you don't want them.
Yeah, thanks for coming on Removable Sanity.
Thank you very much.
BMG, VJ, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you don't have to lie. It's okay.
No,
He's just tired now.
He's talking about me and you, BMG. If you haven't fallen asleep.
I'm still
Anyway,
here. Still here.
Thanks everyone, and we'll see you soon. All right, and thanks everyone.
Have a good one.
See ya.
See you later.